also reduce cost of living. Imagine a country where your dreams is not limited by fear. The truth is security, because every time someone is traveling, our nation loses. Join us for the first daily dialogue on security on the 28th of July in Shehu Musa Yaradua Center, Abuja, 11 a.m. Don't wait until it's your turn. Let's take action now.
How much did you buy a basket of tomatoes the last time you were in the market? How about pepper or onions? The frightening reality is that food prices are rising beyond the reach of a basic Nigerian family. Insecurity has gone beyond kidnapping.
When we are ready to start
It
the
is.
media, thank you. So, please, gentlemen and ladies, can we just come forward so we don't sit behind the camera? Thank you. We have seats on the third row, by the camera and behind the camera. Thank you. We'll get our guests to step in now, and as soon as they do that, we'll formally begin this event with national anthem. Thank you. So we're supposed to take the third stanza to serve as an opening prayer. Again, I want to go. O God of all creation. To wrap that prayer up, please can we put our hands together for the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Wow. That clap was a bit deliberate. Can we clap for Nigeria? Can we do that together? Let me one more time say a very good morning to you all, Your Excellencies, very senior officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Before we formally begin this event, let me first of all try my best to just recognize, to establish protocol. I'll continue that as the event unfolds, but let me take the first batch of protocol. I'd like to specially recognize and welcome a special guest of honor, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Doyediri, who is here represented by the Secretary to the Government of Bayelsa State. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Professor Ayawe. Please can we put our hands together for Professor? I'd like to, at this point, specifically welcome the Minister of State for Defense. Is here perfectly represented by Real Admiral Atiku Abdulkadir, retired. Please can we put our hands together for him? Let me now respectfully and specially welcome to this event our co-chair. So we have two chairmen running side by side. So I'd like to recognize our co-chairman for today. He's a man that every time I see him, I'm always very glad to recognize him and to welcome him. He's a wonderful Nigerian. He has served both as Chief of Army Staff and as Chief of Defense Staff. He's a retired four-star Army General. I'd like to welcome, with all due respect, General Martin Luther Agui, CFR. Please can we put our hands together for him? And sitting just by him, I'd like to respectfully welcome a man that this country is very proud of. He served as the Chief of Defense Staff. Nigeria will love him and respect him every time they see him. But for me, I'm personal with him because he's my uncle. Let me recognize, with all due respect, General Lucky Irabo, the former Chief of Defense Staff of this country. Especially welcome him. He will be doing the keynote address at the appropriate time. We will bring him up to do that. I think it will be a good one to listen to him speak in an event like this. I'd like to now very quickly welcome our lead panelists, another very wonderful Nigerian. Let me specially, I think with the best of clap you can give, help me welcome Sir Mike Okiru. Please can we put our hands together for an elder statesman indeed. Thank you. I'd like to now very specially welcome a man that'll be doing a very special presentation. He'll be speaking at the right time on leveraging on technology to combat insecurity. Let me respectfully welcome to this event Executive Director Operations and Captain. Thank you very much for coming. He served as Commissioner for Information in Bayelsa State. He is our publisher, our chief host for today, and the gentleman that put us all together to come discuss security in Nigeria. Please, I'd like to introduce to us all the publisher of First Daily. Please help me welcome Dr. Daniel Iworiso Maxon. Please, can we clap for him? Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, very senior officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First Daily is an online news outlet that offers an engaging blend of narrative journalism, opinion, analysis, entertainment, lifestyle, travel, politics, and many more. First Daily, let me say very proudly, offers compelling editorial on a wide range of topics and future stories that can enrich readers' understanding and knowledge. Before now, First Daily was called First News, and then it was by First Media Network. But last year, I think I passed by last year when we were doing the 5th anniversary, and a new name was branded, it was rebranded, a new name was released, and it became First Daily. Today, we are counting the 6th year, and as we count that, As we celebrate our 6th anniversary, we are up for a public lecture, and the focus is on national dialogue on security. There's no better time, no better topic to choose than security. There's no better thing to talk about this time than security, because security is indeed a very powerful, important, and wonderful topic. And so, one more time, I'd like to welcome everyone to this event and thank you for coming to celebrate our 6th anniversary with us and for coming to be a part of this national dialogue on security. One more time, this time around, can you do me a favor? Can you welcome yourself with a round of applause? Can we do that, please? Our theme for today is declaration of state of emergency on security, matching words with action. We'll be focusing on how we can match our words with action, and I'm sure we are set and ready to move. We don't intend to keep you for long. We are going to move as quick as possible, but we'll touch every important topic that needs to be touched, and we'll discuss every important thing that needs to be discussed with the right people in the room. We will begin this event very quickly. I'd like to now invite for a welcome address. Nobody fits better to do a welcome address than our publisher and our chief host for today. Please, better than the first one you did, help me welcome our publisher for First Daily, Dr. Daniel Iworiso Maxim. Please, can that clap come a little louder for him?
Thank you. Thank you, Chicks. A very good morning to you all. I'd like to just crave our indulgence that we arise for just 1 minute in honor of all those who died in the course of being kidnapped in captivity of these bandits. I mean, this is the least that we can do for them. May their gentle soul rest in peace. Thank you so much. Thank you. Um, very quickly, let me apologize that we're starting a bit behind schedule. Um, I thought Abuja is better than Lagos, that when you call organized events of this nature, people keep to time. Apparently, Abuja is worse than Lagos. People don't keep to time. So my apologies for starting this program very late. Your Excellencies, top government functionaries, leaders and captains of industry, political leaders, distinguished guests, my colleagues, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is with immense pleasure and profound honor that I welcome you all to the 6th annual public lecture series of First Daily online newspaper. Your presence signifies a shared dedication to the great cause of fighting insecurity in our country. I'd like to tell a very short story. Neville Chamberlain, a British politician who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from May 1937 to May 1940. He was best known as the British Prime Minister who used a policy of appeasement. Adolf Hitler took advantage of it. It emboldened Hitler, and he went on to annex Australia and followed with the capture of the Sutherland, and went on to the occupation of the Czech Republic. And finally, he conquered Poland. So what began as appeasement ended in a devastating global war. I'm sure many of us know the story. So Winston Churchill later warned that those who choose to dishonor in the hope of avoiding conflicts, often end up with both dishonor and war. If you want peace, then you must necessarily prepare for war. I'm not the one saying so. It's It's a famous Latin saying. The moral of the story with Neville Chamberlain and Adolf Hitler, as I have just narrated, is never retreat from a bully. A bully is a bully. Call it by whatever name you want to call it. So the more ground you surrender to this bully, the bolder the bully becomes. Bullies, they make mistake, you know, restraint for fear, compromise for your weakness, and conciliation for surrender. When a bully advances, stand your ground. If necessary, push back with equal resolve. Courage, not capitulation, is what ultimately commands respect. This is not my words. Let me give credit to Senator Babafemi Ojodu. He penned this down and I found it very profound, and I have to put it out here. What I said all of that to say this to us this morning, I think now is the time to call on the federal government to declare total war against banditry, against insurgency, against kidnapping, and every form of criminal enterprise terrorizing our country today. Enough of the bloodshed. Our nation is bleeding. And may I add that our nation is bleeding profusely. And we cannot continue to allow ourselves to be bullied by bandits and terrorists. I believe very strongly that the time for amnesty and reconciliation is over. So the main purpose of our gathering here today is to share ideas, discover new perspectives, and chart the way forward for Nigeria's security. Now is the time to transform our nation's security system into a technologically driven, intelligence-based operation capable of tracking and arresting and prosecuting armed militias, terrorists, kidnappers, bandits, and their collaborators. And therefore, I want to urge every one of us here to be part of this session. And by being part of it, we're deliberate because we called it a national dialogue. Join the discussion and be proud of the contributions that you bring to the dialogue. You never can tell. Your ideas or suggestions might just change someone's life. It's on this note I want to thank every one of you for taking out time to come this morning. We do not take it for granted. I mean, you could have been somewhere else, somewhere much better than here today. But you chose to come and we really appreciate it. And I want to especially thank all our special guests. I can't thank you all enough for finding time. General Guai, thank you, sir, for coming. Let me respectfully thank His Excellency for today. My very good friend, Professor Yahweh, thank you for coming. He called me last night to offer apologies on behalf of His Excellency, who, had promised that he was going to be here in person. And I was wondering, so how is he going to do it? Will he make it before the event? So he flew in straight from Bayelsa to be here with us in Abuja today. Thank you so much, sir. God bless you. I think we can put our hands together for him. But one thing I know for sure is that he's going to be presenting the special paper on behalf of the governor. And I think it's one paper that we all do well to listen to. Many of you don't know that I'm from Bayelsa State because I'm dressed like a Malam. I'm from Bayelsa, the proud state of Bayelsa. And Bayelsa, thank you. Bayelsa is the best state in Nigeria. There are no bandits in Bayelsa, no kidnappers. Thank you so much for coming. I don't even know what to say, but I'm honored and really honored to have all of you here today. And I want to enjoin you all to be part of this robust dialogue. And let's hope that Nigeria will turn around to be the country that we all pray and believe and hope to be. I never in my lifetime believed I would be in a Nigeria of today where life doesn't mean anything. You know, people die and it doesn't mean anything. I mean, every day you wake up, the headlines are screaming, um, people killed, kidnapped. And, you know, funny enough, we just move on. It's as though we have lost our humanity as a nation. And I feel really very, and to think that we have gone really down. But that's why we're here to find solutions on how to restore Nigeria back to its former glory. And I pray that God will give us the enablement to do that, even in our lifetime, to see a better Nigeria. God bless you and thank you for listening. You're welcome. Yeah.
Let's put our hands together for Dr. Daniel.
These statistics, I think when we were starting, we're going to start the publicity for this program. We put out certain information, not from us as a years, and it was mind blowing. The NBS said 2 million people abducted. That's between 2023 and 2024. 2 million. That is the size of the entire population of the Gambia. Would have doubled by now because it has been happening every day. Then guess the number of those that have been killed, 600,000 between 2023 and 2024. Those are statistics. And we can't fault the MBS because the MBS 4 trillion naira trillion. The fact shared by all the states in Nigeria in the month of April and May, 2 trillion. So I think there's an economy around banditry and kidnapping. But the point I want to emphasize here is that we see these numbers. Sometimes we only put a face to the, put faces to these people who are kidnapped when we see them on TV or see them on social media. But I brought someone here who experienced it firsthand. And I'm inviting Ajia Miriam to join us very briefly. Ajia, please. So you can call her a survivor, but hear her story. And her story reflects the story of most Nigerians who, on a daily basis, experience what she experienced. Ajay, how many minutes are you going to take? 5 minutes, because you know women like to tell stories. I'm sorry.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to join you today. Let me go through my quick speech, short one. Distinguished guests, respected members of security community, policy makers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. First, I wish to sincerely appreciate the organizers, First Daily, for inviting me to speak at this important national dialogue. Conversations as this are not merely intellectual exercises. They are opportunities to shape the future of our nation. Today's theme, Declaration of State of Emergency on security matching words with actions, could not be more timely. For me, this is not just another policy discussion. It is deeply personal. While I was serving my state, I was ambushed by armed bandits on my way to a meeting with investors who were considering opportunities in Zamfara State. not only in reaction but also in opportunities. Youth unemployment, weak institutions, illegal mining, porous borders, and poor community engagement all contribute to insecurity. Addressing these challenges requires sustained commitment, not temporary actions. My appeal today is that we should not become comfortable with insecurity. Every life lost is a tragedy. Every community displaced is a national concern. Every investment abandoned because of insecurity is a setback to Nigeria's future. I also believe that storytelling has a role to play. Um, Ensuring that we never for local government initiative, my vision is to take the conversation beyond conference to build a more secure nation. As I conclude, I leave us with just this thought. A secure Nigeria will not be built by government alone. It will be built when every citizen accepts responsibility, when leaders lead with courage and accountability, when institutions work with security personnel, comfort families who have lost loved ones, heal our communities, and grant Nigeria lasting peace. Thank you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And do join the conversation and grab a copy of your book as you go out, please. Thank you.
So her book is titled, she's the author of the book titled Taking a Bullet for the States. Mario Haja Miriam Yaro. Please try a wonderful remark. I'm sure more of those details, we have to make her remove some details. She did that so she can also sell her book. So to get more information about her experience, her story, her book Taking a Bullet will do justice. Thank you very much. One more time, I'd like to officially, and I've done that before, but welcome you all to this National Dialogue on Security. Our publisher in his welcome address fortified the fact that it is the focus is the declaration of state of emergency on security. And we want to leave here matching words with actions. While the speech was going on, few people just stepped in, and I'll recognize them very properly. First, I'd like to welcome General Sir, your co-chairman. So he's one general, one civilian. Meanwhile, someone sent me a text, a WhatsApp message, and said, Chooks, why are you not introducing yourself? And I said, because of the environment, I may not be able to introduce myself. My name was Chooks the General before this event started. But Chooks is okay for now. Yeah, but the event is well arranged. There's one powerful general and one powerful civilian. So we have working in senator, a national leader of NDC. I'd like to welcome His Excellency Senator Henry Seriaki Dixon, CON. Please can we put our hands together for the commander of the Order of Niger? Senator's a very calm man, but with action. He won't shout, he won't scream, but everything will go with action. So I think being a few people, let me stay a little bit. Let me welcome Kemali Okara. Please can we put our hands together for him? Kemila Okara, yeah. We welcome you very specially. Thank you very much, Kemila. We appreciate you. I'd like to welcome a former member representing Sagbama and Akerwa. I'd like to specially welcome High Chief Stella Jogo. Please can we put our hands together for High Chief? Yes, welcome you, Ma. Thank you very much. Ma, is it okay that you come forward a little bit? Is she okay there? Thank you very much. Let me also welcome very specially the former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. I'd like to welcome very specially Kemaswede Wudu. Please can we put our hands together for senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you very much. Okay. I'd like to also very quickly welcome former Director General of NAPTIP. Let me especially welcome Dame Julia Dolly, OON. Please can we put our hands together for her? Thank you. We go straight to our chairman address. We'll be going to the address by the chairman. And so let me start with the general. I don't need to take permission to do that. I like to start with the general. Let me, with all due respect, invites one of the commander of the Federal Republic, General Martin Luther Agwe. Please, can we put our hands together for him, Mr. Clap come a little louder for him. Welcome, sir.
On April Faria, he attended the existing protocol. He didn't carry any log wall. First, Daily Nation, and you are behaving like 60-year-old people. Well done. And you are behaving like 60-year-old people. Well done. What I found out after our meeting, I tried to find out more about your organization, and I found out that it's a platform of truth. Accountability has most in our country as a national security in the 21st century is no longer measured solely by the capacity of the state to defend its borders, but today is the ability of the state to protect its citizens. This includes securing their livelihood and guaranteeing their future, and keeping them away from kidnapping on the highway, to attacks on the farm, to cybercrime, oil theft, disaster like flood and air crashes, challenges and crime. There can be security challenges and crime. There can be security. Without there can be security. Without safety, and security, there will kill much. Without safety and security, there will kill much. Without safety, there will kill much. Without safety and security, there can be no democracy. This is where the media becomes first daily at 6. Where the media becomes first daily at 6 has given first daily at 6 has given us this opportunity today to dialogue, not to trade blames. Security is not the job of the military or other security agencies alone. It is the whole of society responsibility. Yes, whole of society responsibility. Yes, we need a soldier first culture trust. Where communities volunteer information because they believe in the system and that the system works. Justice, in the system and that the system works. Justice, honest journalism that inform without look at the array of speakers that you are able to fish and get these people, because I have met and I have inquired, and I am sure they will back up their speeches not only with good opinion, but with statistic to justify, as my sister who have taken one bullet, and some of us take two, three, but we are still surviving like you. We thank God. To our security agencies, we honor your sacrifice. We hope that it will soon be over. To our lead speaker, my good friend and colleague, you will be soon here, and I am Erabo. To others whom your names are on the program and some have been at the new digital world with trade. It's a person who can out or left out of school children that are over 12 and welcome. And welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. He has said it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. He has said it. Let the conversations begin. Once there's a will, there's a way. But thank you very much. I think he deserves. Thank you. I'd like to appreciate you, sir, for that wonderful welcome address in your capacity as one of the chairmen for this occasion. As one of the chairmen for this occasion, we sincerely appreciate you. Before I call John, we sincerely appreciate you. Before I call the co-chairman, please can we put our hands together for him? And in 2007, he was appointed chairman, House Committee on Justice, and member of several other committees that he served, including Defense, National, and is a national leader of NDC. I like to, with all due respect, and is a national leader of NDC. I like to, with all due respect, welcome J. Dixon. Please, can we put our hands together? Be as tall as he is. Let's do that, please. Let's do that, please.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Let me begin by recognizing the national chairman of the fastest growing political party, who is here, chairman of occasion, General who is here, chairman of occasion, General Aguai, I believe, co-chair, the secretary to government, and our good friends, the publisher, and members of your team, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for again finding time to assemble all of us and giving to us another opportunity to gather today, again to 8 because I've been so enmeshed building a sustainable political since January, from morning here, all the leaders of Bayelsa who are also today assembled here. In no particular order, you know yourselves. Today assembled here. In no particular order, you know yourselves. Haven't said all of them. When one of them has delivered a judgment, everything again, they simply say, I concur. Equally, another very brilliant man, I would like to play that appellate justice game by saying that he has said as mine. He said, I'm not a general. And the service we render, we were to wear ranks. Some of us will be carrying very big ranks too. But this is the real general. And they are the real general, one of the finest that I've had cause to know and interact with in the course of my national service. So thank you all for being here. And without anticipating to venture an opinion in following the deliberations of the Nigerians, remember, some of us have had to take a side against what the majority does most of the time. There is an ongoing debate about a constitutional amendment underway and a major legislation, because as you all know, and as the Inspector General of Police will tell us,
and thank you so much
the police having me in this security. I want to use this opportunity. Not at the meeting. We have not had a robust national debate and dialogue and discussions. Since the 50s. I also want to thank First Lady particularly at the Badon Constitutional Conference to be broke up in chaos in this great forum. And since then, Nigeria has not sure had an opportunity to sit down on security mechanism. Young Progressive Party, YPP, and I'm here today underpinned by the Nigerian Constitution, firstly, concerns national was from the native authority police system, security. Centralized. The end of the President Buhari. The Nigerian police has been fought and made national security priorities by various administrations, whose prime means of territorial integrity, and then with a subsidiary mandate to support in internal security operations. But that's not the primary one. That one has now become the main focus, such that now you have the military deployed everywhere, overstretched when they speak. But as someone who has had an opportunity to be in governance at different levels, and most of you also know that that is what we. So the collapse of the police system, the internal security mechanisms, is a major challenge. So it's not just military, no. And then to fight criminality, but it's better to fight the causes of criminality. For a number of you who were part of my government and who followed Bayelsa, that was why topmost priority to preventive mechanisms, engaging with the people, invest in reasons. Some of those states, Bayelsa and others, are stable. We've harvested them and put them in second. My officials, some of them are here. Thousands identified. Schools built. Boarding schools introduced for the first time. And the current administration, even after man, is continuing with it. So these asking for true federalism, and that is a move, generally speaking, in the right direction. But we need to be careful how we calibrate it. Let it not be done with too much hurry and with any political move. And when I was asked what my template would have been, I said, look, let's talk of devolution. Devolution, not in command and control. First to the zonal levels and consolidate it there properly. And when we have succeeded in turning around the local government systems, and you have competent local governments, chairmen and chairwomen elected, then you can give them autonomy and control. Because every crime that takes place, all of that. But, and underpin one another. I believe that in this forum, there we have these four-star generals and former CDS in one roof, and then an inspector general and several other experts of the discussions. You know yourselves. You bear some level of responsibility for working together with whatever governments, irrespective of politics, to ensure that our nation is safe. Of the main chairman as I take my seat. Thank you very much, and I wish us a good day.
If you could just do an extra favor, let that clap keep serving Senator. I will not give a speech. I will just 5 minutes. And he's still relying on your speech, Chairman, sir. Thank you for relying strongly. Since I truly love this country and on the speech, since I truly love this country and I want a way forward. Thank you very much, distinguished Senator. I want a way forward. Thank you very much, distinguished Senator. We appreciate you for being here and for being a strong lover of this country. Please, one more time, can we put our hands together for him? Can we put our hands together for him? I like to respectfully invite, I think the only uniform man we have, they put our hands together for Air Vice Marshal. I think he should get another round of applause. Can we do that for him? Okay, so the next speaker will be doing a special presentation, and that presentation will be on leveraging technology to combat insecurity.
Captain Waredi. Captain Waredi Eniswo is a highly accomplished maritime and aviation expert with over 2 decades limited foreign and vessels of any size on international waters. Additionally, it possesses an aircraft pilot's license and a diploma in aviation industries. He spent 8 years at Pacific International Lines Pte. Limited in Singapore, where he gained some to serve as a lecturer, instructor, course developer, and examiner at the Australian Maritime College, University of Tasmania, shaping the future of maritime examiner at the Australian Maritime College, University of Tasmania, shaping the future of maritime professionals through his leadership and expertise. In Nigeria, Captain Eniswo made significant contributions to the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Development. In these roles, he was instrumental in shaping policies and driving initiatives aimed at enhancing maritime safety and shipping operations in Nigeria. Currently, Captain Eniswo serves as the Executive Director Operations and Technical at Tantita Security Services Nigeria Limited. His wealth of sharing the success of Tantita Security Mission to protect the nation's most valuable resources.
Now, will drones solve our problems? Maybe. Live demo on the things we've done. We knew that we will not be able to sustain anything unless that technology is indigenous. Most of the people you will arrest are likely to be foreigners benefiting from the oil theft. So, which foreigner research on how we're going to pollute a technology that is not going to depend any day, and then we go blank. So we decide to write that program to us when it comes to intelligence. You have humans, we have drones, we have body cams, and how to process this information was a very big problem. Scrubbers and the other internationals and even nationals go to steal out of sight of the authorities. That was the first thing we had to do. Even all of them. The reason we map, if you do shape, shapes the right of innocent, make fast to oil platforms and start to load. That's why we mapped all of those. So anything that stays there for a while beyond normal, we know they are up to something nefarious. The boxes you are seeing will see all the individual pipelines that we've mapped.
all the individual pipelines that we've mapped. This software had to partner with satellite providers so that when those these are our latest partners. What you are seeing, this is clearly Lagos. You can see how clear it is. This is from, we can do this for any forest in Nigeria. Any forest, not just in Nigeria. That's a satellite pass. Some of the satellites are good on land, some of them are good on water. Some of them are good on water. We don't want to expose too much because of security reasons for now, but that is one of our radio frequency satellites. It's radio frequency. If you knock two metals hard enough, we'll pick you up. Easier. The capacities in the country. If you go to the left section, let's go to Sentinel first, or let's go to NISA. You see NISA there, LS band. This was not our initial objective, but it's in the core. We didn't stop there. We felt if we have watchkeepers and they are being distracted, and draw circles or areas of no-go. If any ship enters those places, it will automatically ring an alarm, visual, track, and even name the object for us, the ship, that are looking for increment in their revenue. So, for example, Bayelsa State, that has got a lot of tributaries. We have over 2 years record of ships that came in and out of Nigeria. You can always replay. Now we had issues with, but we don't have real-time information from the drones because some of our drones, especially when we started, were 45 minutes, some were 30 minutes. But now we have drones that go up to 4, 6, 8 hours, 14. And the latest ones we have now are 23 hours, 30 minutes. Umbrella view, 360 degrees. No hiding, especially where you have wellheads or where you have movement of people in the creeks. So we have drones that can continue to view the environment and pipe that down to us. And we also had to put in this application in such a way that we can have the drone fly and then have the AI. Is this possible? And we can even locate where the drone exactly is on the map. Let's hope we have enough network. It can be a problem. Have issues where people have complained that our staff or say, okay, just go for denials and whatever. We also have the hang on their bodies. So you can see that's a drone effect. You can see that blue dot there as the drone flies. You can see the exact location of the. We also know exactly any of the houseboats to respond. So you can see that location. All those are locations of my staff. We can see them. And the amount of kilometers each staff patrols in a day is also. So you can see their movement out there. Now we've had ships which at one point or the other, don't see them again. They just go ghost. We have the ability to be able to even pick up a canoe. Numbers, the confidence level. See those white dots? See, we know the names of those ones. So if you zoom in, right, you see those little triangles on top of the white stars. Those are what we could call good guys or something. But if you go out, you see people like this other one. Do not only have the capacity to carry out surveillance for Nigeria, we have the capacity to carry out surveillance together. And as my security is not one person's business alone. Business alone.
John.
Please, can we put Services Nigeria Limited? Tantika is obviously doing a good job for releasing the Executive Director of Operations and Technical to DT training. Thank you for those details, especially appreciate you. Okay, so we go to our keynote address. Okay, so we go to our keynote address. It's time for us to listen to some very important and very key. Where's that you place sit? Listen to some very important and very key. Where's that you place sits? We have a wonderful profile to just, it's more than that. Okay, we have on stage, I just want people to believe that it's short. It's a technical, it's my own technical method. We have on stage the former chief of the, it's my own technical method. We have on stage the former chief of defense staff to give us the keynote address. Media, the
Irabo, retired, CF Agbo, Ika South local government area of Delta State. He served in the Armed Forces of Nigeria for nearly 4 decades. Irabo holds a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical. He served in the Armed Forces of Nigeria for nearly 4 decades. Irabo holds a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical electronics engineering from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, a Master's of Arts degree in International Affairs from the University of Ghana, Accra, and a Master of Strategic Studies from seminars, executive programs, and conferences, including Combating Weapons of Mass Destruction and Terrorism at the European Center for Security Studies in Garmisch, Germany. Harvard Kennedy School of Government, USA in same institution in 2017. Successful leadership roles marked General Irabo's military career. He played a significant part in national and international nation building and peacekeeping. His tenure in Northeast Nigeria as a theater commander saw the defeat of Boko Haram, a feat that took him to the international stage as the first commander of the multinational joint task force at N'Djamena, Chad. He led an army from where he was appointed this 21. As CDS Nigeria, the general led the armed forces with distinction. He coordinated the defense and security architecture of the country. Nigeria's journey and the Boko Haram conundrum. Your Excellencies, the Boko Haram conundrum. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General Leo Irabo, retired, CFR.
Let me thank you. First time is, ladies and gentlemen, let me acknowledge today's team, declaration of state of emergency, marching words with action, resonates deep insurgency head on, culminating as Chief of Defense Staff, and earlier on, of course, at Liberia and Sierra Leone as part of the ECOMOG forces. I coordinated multi-service and multinational on the 1st of July this year, which, of course, are forced for publicity. But right over the details of that is a name, a face, a child who no longer has a father, a community that buried one of its own and has not fully recovered. We are talking about real human beings, those with flesh and blood like you and I, our family members and our friends, citizens of this republic living under the protection of a state that has, in too many instances, been unable to protect them. Between July 2024 and June 2025, according to SBM intelligence, 4,722 Nigerians were abducted in 997 separate incidents. Families paid 2.57 billion naira in ransom. They had no They indeed had to pay the money, not because they had scenarios and figures, not to dramatize the situation. I cite them because this conversation must begin with an honest reckoning. Given the gravity of the impact, Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, declared a state of emergency in November, that is, state of emergency on security in November 2025. This, in my view, is the fit and proper thing to do under the current circumstances. However, the actions and tempo of activities since that declaration demands value-added support and assistance in order to yield greater dividends in our quest for a more secured and prosperous nation. The complexities of theory and practice of statecraft compels a progressive all stakeholders, impartial and apolitical involvement in seeking solutions to the country's existential challenges. In this respect, every citizen of Nigeria, irrespective of sociopolitical and socioeconomic persuasions, must be interested in the search for solutions. On this anchor rests my intention in this presentation. Accordingly, I plan to take a look at what emergency declaration entails, the imperatives of efficient policing structure, as well as strengthening national defense and security establishments. Thereafter, I shall consider impediments to combating internal security, amongst others. Now, what does a state of emergency on security actually mean? The phrase emergency means that the president or anyone he so authorizes acquires powers that go beyond what is ordinarily available under the law. This power is for a specific purpose within a defined time frame, and it is with the objective of achieving what emergency declaration suspends the normal to address the critical. Now, let us put a question here before us. What here before us? What has been suspended in Nigeria in response to the security emergency? What procedures? Declaration, I believe we should declare a war on insecurity, and I do not mean the metaphorical war. I mean a formal constitutional resource-backed declaration that says we have identified an existential threat to the Nigerian state and we are mobilizing every element of state power at our disposal, although there are glimmers of hope and motivation. And I'm glad that earlier on when the co-chair was here, he said a few things, and of course the chairman explicitly. Now, what are these glimmers of hope? Currently, there are two major issues that are in the front burner that, of course, are in the spotlight in Nigeria, one of which the co-chair mentioned, which is the state police. And of course, the second one, the expansion of the Nigerian army from 8th Division establishment to that of 12th Division. And I shall be returning to them very shortly. But now, let me first address the question of political will relative to state of emergency declaration. The most consequential gap in Nigeria's security response is political will. Technical capacity is important. The courage of our troops on the field is essential. But what is more important are the decisions that a genuine security emergency requires and the will to see those decisions through. Political will is the willingness to make decisions, including that are so uncomfortable. Decisions that require trade-offs. Decisions that redirect resources from popular programs to unglamorous but essential ones. It is the willingness to tell the public we are in a state of emergency. Recent figures from Open Treasury portal of the Office of the Accountant General are quite instructive. The Nigerian Army received an approved equipment budget of 20.56 billion of that budget, which amounts to 1.46 billion that have been released. The Nigerian Air Force aircraft maintenance budget had an approved allocation of 34.71 billion. Only 13.9% had been released. Also, Daily Trust reported that in 2025 budget for the Nigerian Army, only 16.71 billion, or a representation of 4.96% of the 336.76 billion budgeted for defense equipment, which was released. Overall, the Navy and other establishments, I'm just using this as a basis to make some decisions, like some assessments and conclusions. Overall, the Army reportedly received just 1.7 trillion, or 25% of its 4.52 trillion proposed expenditure. Furthermore, over 3/4 of Nigeria's total defense budget is consumed by personnel costs alone. Take note of that. Living under very difficult conditions. We must build the capacity that make, I think, because the world is dynamic and the socio-economic and socio-political, equation of around the world demands that we too go with time. So this is precisely what the point I try to make here. So the answer to the risk that is governors weaponizing the state police, the answer to the risk of abuse is not scrutiny at the state level. Judicial essential for us to note. Now, coming back to issues regarding the expansion of the Army, I'm using that as a benchmark, if you like, as a framework, as a pivot. Our military is built with sustained investment, rigorous training standards, competitive welfare, and the institutional respect that motivates extraordinary service. Equipment matters. I know from a personal experience from the field what it means when the troops in the field have what they need, and I know what it means when they do not. Modern warfare requires modern tools, night fighting capability, protective gears, all-terrain mobility platforms, reliable communication, surveillance capabilities, and combat enablers. These are the minimum conditions for professional military effectiveness. Similarly, welfare is not separate from performance. It is the foundation of it, if you may ask me. The family of a soldier serving in the forward operating base needs to know that their housing is secured, that their children can go to school, that a medical care is available, that if the worst happens, their sacrifice will be honored and supported. When that assurance exists, it creates the kind of institutional morale that sustains. The government, in my view, must also know it and act accordingly. Professionalism must also be built and maintained through a defense educational system that is properly resourced, a promotion system that rewards competence and integrity, a leadership culture that honors accountability, and a code of conduct that is enforced regardless of rank. The military is central to this project. Its continued development, academic rigor, and operational relevance are not institutional matters. They are national security matters. On the recent expansion of the Nigerian Army formations, I wish to congratulate Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief on this development. It is a first step in a very long journey of combat force generation, development, readiness, and efficiency. Perhaps, well, it might not be for this audience what we mean by combat efficiency, the parameters to calculate combat efficiency, amongst other, and then of course troops readiness. When you say troops are ready, you may be available, but it may not be ready for battle. You may also, be ready for battle. Technical people will know that. Therefore, the distinguished himself, who is a lawmaker, these are areas where many of you, before you go, this is the reason why also some people that I listen to as public policy analysts, and sometimes they get it wrong because they have actually not taken into consideration some of these nuances. And I believe that time has come. We are grown up enough as a nation for us to begin to understand what we say. It is not what resonates. It is not what sounds glowing that actually is the right thing. So sometimes when you listen to TV, and many people have been deceived, and the majority of the people have been deceived into believing what does not exist, what is not real, what is not actually going to give us the expected end, because the right technical pegs and the right technical holes, as it were. So the personnel recruitment, of course, I said that it is the first, that is, the expansion is the first step in a very long journey of combat force generation, development, readiness, and efficiency. The table of organization and equipment must be to scale for all formations. Currently, that is not happening. So, but I believe that for the president to make such a declaration, meaning that he must have worked out what it takes to be able to first beef up the, the existing formations to a reasonable level, to accommodate a higher percentage, at least not less than 75% of the table of equipment and organization, table of organization and equipment, so that when these new ones are added to it, of course, they also, so that at the end of the day, if you have, a threat that demands military response, then a time frame can be, put into the deployment of those forces, and within that time frame, they're able to meet it. But where they do not have the capacity to do so, then of course we have these lingering issues. And that's, of course, I remember, and I believe that even though time is our enemy here in this forum, in those days when I was a mid-level officer, issues that had to do with policing. At the time, IGP Okiro was the Inspector General of Police, and we, from the military angle, we saw some of the flaws, some of the areas that we believe that perhaps because it's a national internal security issues, and it's also affecting not just the active members of armed forces, but equally our family and friends, that we thought perhaps we could become a problem for the military. And here we are. We believe that time has come, of course, for us to begin to and so on and so forth. It must be total. It must be holistic. Why? Because every of these establishments, they have their mandating rules that are enabling the enabling instruments, what it mandates them to do, and so they can only be effective in those areas if they are properly equipped. Now, be remiss if I fail to mention what is structural impediments to effective internal security response, and I think the co-chairman also mentioned a few, and I'm just going to mention in passing. The first is poverty and unemployment. Nigeria's population crossed the 220 million mark. That population ought to be one of our greatest assets, a market, a workforce, a pool of energy and talent. Instead, it is becoming, in too many communities, a liability. This is because the economy has failed to absorb them. An unemployed, hungry, educated young man with no prospect with no prospect is a potential security problem. The bandit recruiter who comes to his community knows this. The solution to this problem is not stipends. It's not the stipends that we give. It is not what is currently described in some quarters as empowerment. With all due respect to the co-chairman, the distinguished. Those empowerments, I believe that is not the way to go. I believe that things that have to do with constituency project is not the way to go. It's not the way to go. That's not governance. I believe that it's, in my view, very self-serving. That approach breeds dependency, not capacity. It cultivates electoral support. It is not empowerment to give a man fish when you could actually teach him to run a fishery. Labor-intensive infrastructure development programs, mechanized agriculture development, construction that drive, which are things that drive, or construction drive, that put young hands to productive work, are the security investments that function below the surface and prevent the conditions that fuels insecurity. Next, of course, is institutional coordination failures. Our security agencies frequently operate in silos. The military, the police, the DSS, the department, the customs, the EFCC, and so on and so forth. Each service has a role in the security architecture. Each collects intelligence, tracks patterns, and manages resources, but too often, that intelligence is not shared in ways that allow for coordinated responses. I say this from a privileged standpoint. Too often, there is jurisdictional competition rather than operational cooperation. The criminal networks we are fighting do not observe our institutional boundaries. Our response must not be constrained by them. The next, of course, is the corruption tax on security, what I term as corruption tax on security. In December 2025, a Senate committee investigating the $30 million mobilized for security interventions found that almost half of the project funds had been spent on consultancy and operational expenses rather than on the security projects themselves. I believe that you are well aware of this. That is the corruption tax on national security. So for media people, like I'm seeing Markwell here, I'm seeing Sumner here, I'm seeing Alade here, I'm seeing a good number of them, and even our chief host who is here. I remember in those days, I sit here, they will come to you and say, look, so and so amount has been released to you. I say, no, go back to those who told you that so and so amount has been released to you. Now, for me, that the corruption index on national security is so huge. So every naira lost to procurement fraud, every contract that goes undelivered, every piece of equipment that exists on paper and not in the field is a naira that is not protecting a Nigerian. The last, out of the 4 points I intend to mention, is the absence of a truly whole of government approach. Whole of government approach. And I want to use this opportunity to also thank you once again for this engagement. You'll be shocked of what impact this kind of interactions, we have on the aggregate of the security of our nation. Because information shared, all right, information sharing is part and parcel of the process itself, all right. So where we get better, aware as to what is required, then of course it helps us to be able to take certain actions even when we're alone. So security is not the exclusive responsibility of the Ministry of Defense. And I'm glad that the chairman said so. And of course, the security agencies. It is a whole of government challenge. Economic policy, education policy, infrastructure investment, judicial reforms, anti-corruption enforcement, all these have direct bearing on security situation. When the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Defense are not in strategic alignment, when the budget is structured as though security and development are competing priorities rather than complementary ones, when governors behave as though insecurity in the next state is someone else's problem, these are not administrative gaps, they are strategic failures. Now, I know that, and also, talked about technology. I think I'm going to take a little bit to mention it before I conclude. There are no quick fix prices such as that should come, and perhaps if time permits. There are no quick fixes to Nigeria's security challenges. However, there are quick wins, and I think that's where technology comes in. Modern security challenges require modern security responses. The adversaries we face, insurgents, bandits, kidnappers, or organized criminal networks, are not static. They adapt. They use encrypted communications. They exploit intelligence gaps. They move faster than conventional security forces, responding with conventional methods. Technology is not an option in this environment. It is a requirement. The good news is that even within the same environment, the maritime environment for the Navy, talking about the Falcon Eye and a whole lot of other technologies, they have all been deployed in several theaters. But the deployment of technology in Nigeria's security architecture remains, and at best, patchy and at worst, dependent on the goodwill of foreign partners whose interests do not always align with us. And I think some of the things that we already talked about, there are things he has also not told you, but I can understand from the standpoint he's saying it. Each time he talked about a fly pass of a satellite, all right? He has not also told you how many satellites engagement and what payment that goes into for those because they are not owned, they are not necessarily owned. What we have, we need to engage. Each time we talk about NASDAQ and then NISCOMSAT and all the ones that we have. These are the reasons why we need them. And time we failed me to also talk about some of the things that we would also try to do to have some miniature satellites in place, since we cannot afford to pay for the real satellites, among several other issues. So he's doing it because there's Tekwe. There's no Tekwe, he cannot. So let's. And which Rear Admiral Shola Oluwabire, retired, has also developed with considerable depth in his book. Shadows of Hardware is a strategic vulnerability. Over 90% of our military at a critical moment manipulate the terms of its provision. With Rear Admiral Shola is on point. The development of a Nigerian military industrial complex is key. We don't need to go to rent satellites, all right? But of course, it requires money. And what quantum of money? Again, we have to think about it. Not just to mention it, not for Mark and Co. and to mention technology. You think just when you mention technology comes. No, technology is money. It's money. And so our military industrial complex is key. Not immediately, not overnight, but as a declared national objective with a funded roadmap. We must begin to produce, maintain, and innovate our own defense technology. This requires investment in research and development, partnership with domestic universities and polytechnics, and a deliberate policy of technology transfer in every procurement agreement with foreign partners. Technology must also be deployed at a level of community intelligence. The most valuable asset in any counterinsurgency and countercriminality, a little bit about synergy and expanding responsibilities. The security challenges Nigeria faces are too complex, too multidimensional, and too geographically dispersed for any single agency to address them. What is required is a genuine, operationally coherent joint architecture that enables the armed forces, the police, the intelligence services, civil defense, and relevant civilian agencies to work as a single rather than a collection of parallel structures. There is no need, and I've said it times before now, there's no need to multiply operational establishments. Forest guards, what are they? Forest guards are not to fight the war. Forest guards are post-war era outfits that give you, you are fighting war, you are creating forest guards. Equally, I believe that professional must also evolve. The police officer, the soldier, the intelligence officer of the 21st century is not simply a person with a weapon or another. He or she must be a community engager, an information analyst, a de-escalation specialist, and an institutional representative of the state's legitimacy. This requires training and it requires time. It also requires that the state invest in the professional development of its security workforce as seriously as it invests in their equipment. This is important. Civil society, the media, traditional rulers, religious leaders, and local government officials are also part of the security architecture. Community intelligence, the knowledge that a local chief or a women's association leader holds about movements, strangers, and patterns of behavior in their community is often the most timely and most accurate intelligence that is available to us. The security architecture must find systematic ways to integrate that knowledge. They must look for ways to earn it through trust and to use it with discipline. As I conclude, I want to close with what I believe is a fundamental question that this dialogue must answer. At this point, we should not be asking such questions as, is there a security crisis? Of course, we know that to answer to that. Nor should we be asking, do we need to do something? Of course, it's obvious. The question we should be asking is, do we have the will, the structure, and the commitment to do what the situation actually requires? A state of emergency on insecurity could look like what this, which is that every element of both, sin and unseen should be directed towards the common security objective. Resources released as budgeted, not held back by administrative inertia. Equipment procurement executed with urgency. Coordination among agencies mandated and enforced. And political leadership that is willing to tell Nigerians not comfortable things, but what is true. In the course of my active military duties, I have buried colleagues. I have visited hospitals where young soldiers were recovering from injuries sustained in the front lines. I have sat with communities across the country who had lost everything. I've also seen what Nigerian security forces, properly led, properly supported, and properly equipped, can achieve. I have seen the discipline, the courage, and the professionalism that exist in this institution. The capacity, that capacity deserves to be properly harnessed. Nigeria deserves it. I believe that the declaration of emergency on security was a statement of intent. It is necessary to fast track walking the talk. We need to back the security agent parameters, build the military industrial complex that will reduce our strategic dependency. To my colleagues, those in the security who are security professionals that are in this room and of course that may be listening, I say, continue to serve with dignity and commitment that the uniform demands. We are very, very proud of you. The country is watching. More importantly, the people whose safety depends on your professionalism are counting on you. Keep up answers. The war against insecurity is a war that can be won, and it must be won. Let me thank you for listening.
These deserve a round of applause louder than what you have done. Please, can we one more time celebrate our keynote speaker for today? Wow. Wow. The final quotes. The war against insecurity is a war that can't be won and a war that must be won. And we say that this country will indeed win that war. One more time, can we celebrate the former Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor? The paper was already very amazing. I don't need to dive into it. It covered the role of governments, the role of media, the role of citizens, the role of trained officers. And of course, there's nothing more, there's no better way to end that keynote address than what he just did. The war against insecurity is a war that can't be won and a war that must be won. Thank you very much, Jan Lucky Rabo. We sincerely appreciate you. And it's a privilege to do that very quickly. So I try to give time to each speaker coming on stage. But the last man who just spoke is the former Chief of Defense Staff. Even though publisher sent me to give him time, who am I to give him time? So whether you did within the time or outside the time, it's okay, sir. You are a general. It's okay. But the next man coming is my fellow civilian. So I'm not really afraid. I will beg him to please see how to walk around the time that's been given to him so we can move to go do messages and see how to wrap up. I also want to humbly appeal to all our special guests, our chairman, our keynote address, those that will be on the panel. Try to keep to time so we can get to that group photograph. I want everyone to please be a part of it. I will run as fast as possible so we can get to that group photograph. The next man coming on stage, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is a respected public affairs commentator. He's known for advocating structural reforms, improved governance, ideological clarity in politics, and sustainable solution to Nigerian economic and security challenges. He's a Nigerian politician, a former two-time presidential candidate for ARP, and the president of the People's Movement for a New Nigeria. He's the academic director of Gregory University, Uturu. I'd like to, with all due respect, welcome to speak to us for very few minutes. Okay, for about 7 to 10 minutes, let me welcome Alhaji Yahya Ndu. Please, can we put our hands together for him? If the clap can be a little louder, I know that he will keep to time because your clap was a little louder. Let's celebrate him. Let the clap come very little louder. I know that those in the academic, once they grab their laptops to give lectures, they are in control. But sir, I know you keep time for about 7 to 10 minutes. One more time. Can we clap for Alaji, please?
Corruption. This state police has to both horizontally and vertically link up. For instance, state police in Bayelsa should be able to link up. I'm talking about rich state police, the one that we have to bring out, the one that died when the colonial masters came, the one that has not existed since 1960. That state police should be able to link up with other state police in the south-south. Likewise, the ones in the southeast. That state police has also to go down to establish local government police and community policing. That is the first thing we need to do. And when we do this, because he who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. If you have a mosquito bite and you have to hold the meetings before you can scratch it, how do you think that works? So that is the first thing I like to say. The second thing I like to say is that, first of all, let me say something. Last year, 2 years ago, we embarked on a matter. As a matter of fact, when I met Okilo in Calabar, we met in Calabar, I collected your number to discuss this matter with you. That number I called several, it never went. You see, hello, we tried to set up a conference for security that should start from all the communities all over Nigeria, from the communities to the wards to the local government to the state. Let the people in the localities bring out ideas of what they think will assist in securing their life. The point is that those who are in charge of authority on one side and the masses who are being kidnapped are on the other side. There is no intercourse. And this is a big problem. Those who are being kidnapped have the ideas of what to do. We must find a way. That's why I said we should stop thinking like slaves. When the British man came and set up his kind of police, it was to protect his own interests. Since he left, we have not gone back to where we were when we were interrupted. This is the time to go back. I was in politics. There's no time to talk about politics. I set up the African Renaissance Party because what we need, like said, it's a holistic approach to governance. I will say a holistic recovery of the heritage we have abandoned. That is why we have leakages in all aspects. So that is what I have to say on that. Another thing I would like to mention is that if you look at the brochure, you see that almost all the people who they call front runners for presidency were invited and none of them is here. None of them is here. 2 or 3 months ago, we tried to organize what we call Ernest Ikoli presidential debates. Ernest Ikoli from Bayelsa is the man who laid actually the foundation for our nationhood. Nobody remembers him. He died in 1960. But this is the man who tutored Zik, tutored Awolowo, and the rest of them, who gave Nigeria his all and served this country more than anyone in history in the past 100 years. The only kind of people you can compare to him are people like Jaja of Opobo, people like Koko of Nembe, people like Sultan Atahiru of Sokoto, and so on and so forth. These are the people who really sacrificed everything they had for the betterment of the people they loved. Tell me, what has our country ever done to immortalize such people? When you immortalize people who sacrifice for the betterment of the society, you are encouraging others to follow in their wake. Today, they tell you if your car is spoiled and you need people to push it, and you ask them to pay before they push it, something must be wrong with you. The kind of, by the way, now I just want us to begin to look at critical things we need to do if we are really serious about arresting the insecurity. General said so many things here that I agree with. For instance, information is key. In this age of information technology, what stops us from having a multi-interactive website where people from all over, where Nigerians from all over the country and all over the world, I'm talking about our global diaspora, can log in and holding meetings and so on and so forth. Don't worry, I will round up. I will round up, but I want to say something. You know, like we are. It's like a family. Their mother is very sick. She's about to die. They are debating because many of them are medical doctors. When she's having fever, they try to find a medical term to qualify the fever. When she's vomiting, they start to business. If, for instance, we should find a way, like said something about making state of emergency meaningful. If we say, for instance, that no aircraft will do something, they're flying up and down. So they're not feeling what is happening. Finally, let me say a few things. You said something about equipment for the army. Right. So many things were being manufactured. How many years after the Civil War up till now? What stops us from moving forward? Why must we think of how we can get money? Look at the war of Iran and the United States. Look at a country that has been blockaded for more than 40 years. How they're surviving? Technology started in Africa, for goodness sake. What is holding us back? Let me say this finally. I came prepared, but it didn't happen. That finds its feet within its logic and mentality, terrorists, and regret and reintegrate them into the society. And to grant pardon to Mazen Namunde Kanu, I am not a member of IPOB, but it has come to a period in our life when we must mend some fences so that we can reason together, so that our country can move in the same stream. All those criminals, bandits, whether from the southeast, from the south, from the southwest, who have committed atrocities, the atrocities committed are against human beings. And all those, see how we can come together as a family and move ahead. If we don't do that, we will continue being unable to protect our interests. More than 3 million people lost their lives during the Civil War. They are human beings. General Ibrahim Babangida 6Q was not, and what you said, sir, was not correct. None, to my understanding, so far has done so. So I am compelled to have the understanding or conviction that what he said was real. I thank you all. When we really need to talk about how to solve this matter, we shall begin. For now,
As an academic man, he's very used to the lecture hall. You know, lecture hall, there's no microphone in lecture hall. So I first of all gave him this mic. He was not talking and leaving the mic. I brought the hand mic. He was using that same hand to point at General. I was begging him, sir, please, Honorable Minister. But I think this is one of the most practical remarks I've had today. In my opinion, he deserves another round of applause. Please, I try to beg, as far as I'm concerned, this job I'm doing, all of them are my seniors and my elders in the media feed. They are the friend of the publisher. He has a program. Okay, he wants, can we clap for him? My principal, Nilta Egbe, is also here from News Central. And of course, the very intelligent, thank you very much. Please, can we put our hands up for all of them? Can we appreciate them? And other gentlemen of the press that are here, once I cite you and I connect your name to your face, I'll come back and do it. But one of them will come and lead us on the goodwill message. But let me quickly explain to all our guests that after the goodwill message, we'll take one item and then we'll go to the governor's speech and then we can have that picture and then we get the panelists to come and discuss everything that was said today. Let's see how to keep up to this flow and see how to keep to time. The goodwill message will be as brief as possible. Uncle Nilta will tell us, hi, Olga.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity. As the last speaker said, he came prepared, and but he had less than 2 hours to deliver his 2-hour lecture. A few. So please, if you're coming up stage, you have the microphone you will get. And having said that, I would like to invite the representative of the Honorable Minister of State Defense, His Excellency Dr. Bellier, for his goodwill message.
When is my 2 minutes starting? Express His Excellency's thanks to every other person that have made presented a paper here, and I will spend 2 minutes for each of them. So I'm sure I will not have exceeded 2 minutes by the time I will be finishing. First of all, I want to start with apologies of His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of State for Defense, for his inability to be here in person. As we sit here, he's also in another very serious state engagement. And I want to start by acknowledging of and our host here today, representative of the Chief of Air Staff, and I also sneak to stand on the excited to come here and give his goodwill message. And he has asked me to extend his greetings to everybody that is here and to state that this summit is being done at no better time than now. Now that there are so many things at stake, now that we are also progressing into a period of election, now that we are seeing, and that you want me to, in a very short brief, express the little of some of the things that government is doing as action addressing issues that concern insecurity. And General Irabo already spoke on the expansion of the Nigerian army, that we're now having 8 divisions and strategically located at different areas that appear to have some spaces that we can quote and unquote say ungoverned, not exactly like that, but we're having them in these areas now to cater for the gaps. And that means also we're going to have more coverage. And in addition to that, also recruits, and there's also already program for one already established depot other than the traditional depot. The situation were found indigenous capacity to develop. The government to look at how we can indigenously Nigerians try to come whatever they can, modeling world standard security. But in addition to that also, they are running as the police of basic military equipment, in arms, ammunition, vehicles, aircraft, were taken to be extended and is going to give the support, desired support required. I want to assure us that we're also taking note of those who in this country, even here in Abuja, have gone advanced in production of drones and very advanced software to operating in silos like journalists. Some of them were supporting each other adequately so that most their operational activities. I want to say thank you for listening to us. We have seen here today so that we.
Thank you very much, sir. Staff, knowing that at the end of the day, and the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Kelvin Aneke, is the Air Vice Marshal Gabwet, the Air Force Chief of Civil Military Relations.
The chairman of this very important forum, need me to recognize some of my, and indeed all the other very senior officers serving and retired in this room, ladies and gentlemen. General Irabo has made everything very, very simple for us in the armed forces because he has said exactly what we have been saying over time. And that in itself affects between the US now and Iran. Difficulty of asymmetric warfare. Failed war with its reputation in tatters. That in itself can also embolden other states, other terrorist organizations to test the waters. So it gives you an idea why what we are facing as a nation is not an easy task. Is it surmountable? Yes. Every Nigerian speak about the whole of society approach, the whole of it's called Jet A1 for the aircrafts, released on the brighter side, brighter aircrafts from Italy. We have started with M346. We're expecting 12 AH-1 Zulu. And I have also spoke about how much does it take to pay these companies? Thousands of dollars. So security, with the issue of declaring a state of emergency in security, then we must be very practical. Technology goes beyond just words of. We are seeing a lot of young military sector to work with. And for DICON, let us begin to seek equipment that will realize that the better for us as a nation. Thank you so much.
After that presentation, I thought we didn't have drone at all. Okay, we're going to just do a quick, swap. We'll just take pictures and then we'll sit down back again to continue our goodwill messages. I'll come to IG, sir. What's going on? The wife of the publisher also stepped in. We call her First Lady of First Daily. Please, can we put our hands together? They're calling me. Okay. So, before Okiro, please can we put our hands together for him? Okiro, please can we put our hands together for him?
Served of the Nigeria Police Force from 2007 to 2009. Hailing from the Egbema clan in Rivers 2009. Hailing from the Egbema clan in Rivers State and recognized as the first Inspector General of Igbo extraction, Okiro rose through the ranks after training at the University of Ibadan. And various in during his inadequate budgets leading to relying to enhance responsiveness to crime, while personally contributing modest sums to under-resourced divisions. Post-retirement, Okiro chaired the Nigeria Police Service Commission, influencing recruitment and discipline, and Okiro CFR NPN as a special guest and CFR NPN as a special guest and lead speaker of the panel discussion.
In any case, chairman and co-chairman, distinguished and the co-chairman, distinguished and gentlemen, I want to really stand and issue protocol for what of time. My was with action. It is that Nigeria is facing serious challenges on insecurity. And insecurity is a global phenomenon. It's not something that is exclusive to any particular have insecurity. How do we tackle the problem if it's with us? Americans that are developed know how to tackle their problems. We are struggling. But are we struggling enough? The answer may be yes or no, depends how you look at it. The government, I would say, is contributing to this security itself. Let me give a typical example. The police, with some that lead agency, internal security. What's the results? Insecurity. Retirement, debt, whatever. Yet, debt, whatever. Yet, you had the system of Nigeria is a reaction of somebody with his back on the ground. Therefore, if you have a young man, a young girl, build a lot of equipment. There's equipment there. No vehicles there. So what I say, the government is actually encouraging security in the country. Because they know what to do, but they're not doing it. And also, encouraging security. Oh, the Christian must come together.
When I was IG, I wrote a memo to the NSA. And I said, oh, I mean, I did it. You see, the said I did it. We are fighting the same cause. The difference is the uniform. You have the same training. Different the uniform. And I said, we should have a synergy among the security agencies. And I gave a typical example. I said, if he writes to the director of SS in Abuja, who now writes to NSA, you can't wait, you have to act. Let it direct, let it discuss to avoid and work together. Also, you mentioned other areas of the security agencies working. Yes. No more battles. The budget for the year will not reduce. How can you work? They give this salary. How can you work? The welfare is not there. So if somebody is fighting Boko Haram in Medjugorje, the family is or no accommodation. I did this with Yaradua when I was IG. What do you want there? I said, sir, let me paint a picture before you. Maybe because I didn't know what I meant. Okay, go ahead. I said, take a corporal or a sergeant in Sokoto Command, posted to police post at the boundary of the Republic. And because of crime or mobility, he was not transferred from Sokoto to FCT. He had FCT, he had no accommodation, he had no vehicle. He sleep in an abandoned vehicle because it's instead of 5,000 naira a month. Not even enough for him to go to Koto and come back. Then one day, he's posted to Nikon Luxury or Transcorp Hotel to check crime. His wife calls him, say, Papa Sule, no well. We went to hospital, they say make you pay 20,000 naira for admission. They give AK-47 to say town for Transcorp to check crime. What can he do? He'll do like this. He said, Mike, what do you want? I said, I want salary increase for my men. I promise you I'm going to do my best as IG, but my best cannot be good enough. I have to formulate policies. Those people in Sokoto, Medjugorje, Enugu, Lagos, Calabar, do the job. If they're happy, they cannot do it. That's why we're able to increase the area of policemen for that period. What I'm saying is just a simple thing. All the security agencies, they take this risk. No houses for them. The morale is low. It's unfortunate. But what I'm saying, the government has a lot to do. If we want security to go down, government has a role to play. This didn't start today. Those of us who know that, Fela used to sing about it in those days, in the 70s, 80s. He say, water works, there. Road unko, there. Education unko, there. This problem has been there since. And he remember Idris, who said Nigeria Dagadaga, Poma Sofa. So it means it didn't start today. But what the government had to do is to make sure every regime comes, make an improvement. Did not be as it was before. It's a continuation. No. Government has to do something. Every government must do something in terms of insecurity, in terms of economic value, economic life of Nigerians. So I hope I didn't pass my 30 seconds. Thank you.
Please, can we put our hands together one more time for the IG? Okay, so I have to ask him to sit here because we'll take pictures now. So I didn't want him to go down and come up again. So I'd like to invite chairman, chairman and chairman and co-chairman to please come on stage. The rep of the governor, our keynote speaker, our publisher, and of course, first lady of the First Daily. Let's have Tantika Security, the chief of air staff represented. Maybe everyone on the front row. Let's take the first picture, and then we'll now continue. IG, sir, you can now please step forward. IG came with 15-page documents, and I noticed that for the Okay, so we take this picture first, and then we'll take the rep of the governor to speak. But while they are taking the picture, I'd like to quickly recognize, okay, sure, not like we're closing yet. We need to hear from the governor's rep before we can, please. Can we clap for them as they go back to their seats? Yes. Okay, let me respectfully welcome and recognize Director of News, Arise News. I like to recognize Somna Sambu. Please, can we put our hands together for?
So you can take the governor.
Your Excellencies, our very senior officers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while we are sitting down, we will now hear from the rep of His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Bayelsa State. It's time to.
Please, sorry.
Yes, sir. No. Okay. Please, everyone who have done a paper presentation today, please make the paper available for us. We'll be publishing all papers that were presented today. So please, we need the papers. Our lecturer, sir, we need your papers, sir, for publish. I will publish all of them. Thank you very much. I'd like to now invite His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Bayelsa State. He's here to speak to us as governors, as chief security officers in Nigeria. Let me invite, with all due respect, the secretary to the state government of Bayelsa, who is here representing the governor of that state. I'd like us to please put our hands together for Professor Ayawe. Please, can the clap be very loud for Professor Ayawe? Professor, sorry,
Thank you. How are you? The chairman of the occasion, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. My work is a very simple one because I'm representing the governor. He has asked me to first give you his apologies for not being here personally this afternoon. And I know he had promised coming, but somehow he couldn't make it because of some exigencies of state. So I've been asked to deliver his message, and that is what I'm here to do. Now, since we are discussing Bayelsa, the topic is governors as chief security officers in Nigeria, the Bayelsa example. And I know that there are so many persons who don't know where Bayelsa is in this hall. Even if we're Nigerians, some people think Bayelsa is a part of River State. So Bayelsa is Bayelsa. Bayelsa actually is a very unique state. Bayelsa is seated at the southernmost parts of Nigeria. And Bayelsa carries the burden of Nigeria. Why do I say Bayelsa carries the burden of Nigeria? The river Niger flows from the Futajalon Islands in Guinea and empties into the Gulf of Guinea via Bayelsa. The river Niger from the Adamawa Mountains in northern Cameroon flows through Lokoja and empties through Bayelsa. Bayelsa is quite unique. It carries the whole burden of Nigeria. Bayelsa has
the best oil facilities offshore Nigeria. Jagba Jagba, 140 kilometers to the nearest land, that is Bayelsa. Agbami, 125 kilometers to Bayelsa. Bunga, 200. There are 23 estuaries. Bayelsa alone houses 13 of them. That comes with developmental challenges. That is the uniqueness of Bayelsa. And because we carry all these, we have more rivers than river states. And we are also more deltaic than delta states. That is the unique position of Bayelsa in Nigeria. And now the message from Mr. Governor. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a piece of African wisdom that says, the hunter who knows the forest should lead the chase. It is a simple saying, yet it conveys a profound truth. Success in any endeavor depends not merely on strength or good intentions, but on intimate knowledge of the terrain. Those who understand the landscape recognizes its hidden parts and can distinguish danger from opportunities and best place to lead the response. What does that wisdom mean for us today? What does that wisdom mean for us today? It means that if we are to build a security architecture that is responsive, effective, and enduring, we must place greater confidence in those who confront the realities of insecurity where they occur. The governors of our states know the terrain. They hear the anxieties of their people, understand the peculiar security dynamics within their communities, and bear both the constitutional and moral responsibility for public safety. If we deliberate on national security without sufficiently empowering those who stand closest to the challenge, whose judgments are we truly trusting? Permit me to ask a fundamental question. What is the primary duty of any government? Centuries ago, John Locke offered an answer that remains relevant to this day. In the second treatise of their property, by which he meant life, liberty, and possessions. It is on this basis that citizens surrender a portion of their freedom to the state. It is also on that foundation that the social contract is formed. But if that covenant is broken, what remains of the social contracts? If the citizens cannot go to themselves, what exactly? Declaring state of emergency on insecurity, matching words with actions. This theme is a mirror. It compels us to look at ourselves honestly and ask, have our words matched our deeds? Have our declarations produced practical results? Have our policies brought comfort to the people? Have we moved beyond statement of concern to structures of consequence? Incidentally, today is the 28th of July. On this day in history, in 1914, the First World War began. What's that consumed nations? It is a mere coincidence. Is it a mere coincidence that we gather on this day to discuss how to prevent local crises from overwhelming our national peace? Whether it is coincidence or providence, I believe we must make the most of this moment. We must recognize that insecurity, if not confronted with wisdom, courage, and sincerity, has the capacity to spread beyond its original borders and destabilize the very foundation of society. In line with our theme of matching word with action, my paper addresses governors as chief security officers in Nigeria, the Bayelsa example. But I must ask plainly, what kind of chief security officers are we talking about? Beyond words, the role requires confronting hard truth. One of them, which many acknowledge privately, but rarely say publicly, is that governors and chief security officers of their states operate within a legal fiction. The title exists, but under a limited and imperfect arrangement that does not vest the authority required to meet the responsibility. How can one be called chief when the command and control structures are not directly within one's authority? How can a governor be held responsible for security outcomes when the instruments of coercive state power are largely controlled from the center? How can a governor answer to the people when he cannot directly command the officers deployed in his territory? This is not an argument against national security institutions. Far from it, it is an argument for realism, effectiveness, and true federal balance. It is an argument for a system that recognizes the complexity of Nigeria and the diverse security realities of its component states. I have addressed this matter extensively in various fora. Last year, it was my honor and privilege to deliver the keynote address at the 60th Convocation Lecture of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where I examined this issue with my broader reflection on true federalism, or as I prefer to call it, genuine federalism. I will not repeat these arguments here, but this is because this is already in public discourse. But let us go to the heart of the matter. Section 215 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria provided for the structure of the Nigeria Police Force and the relationship between the President, the Inspector General of Police, the governors, and the commissioners of police in the states. In practice, governors are often described as chief security officers of their various states. Section 215 recognizes governors as chief security officers, yes, but in practice, the Commissioner of Police takes orders from the Inspector General of Police in Abuja and can even refer a governor's directive back to the president. That is why we have responsibility without full authority. Yet, I ask again, what is the use of a title without tools? What is the value of responsibility without corresponding authority? The Bible reminds us in 1 Corinthians 6:12 that all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. In other words, something may exist in law, yet fail the test of practical wisdom. Something may be constitutionally arranged, yet remain inadequate for the demands of reality. In a federation such as ours, does it not make good sense for governors to have a clearer, firmer, and more practical role in the security architecture of their states? If the president is commander-in-chief at the national level, should our federal structure not provide for a corresponding framework through which governors can effectively secure their domains? I must, at this juncture, welcome the consideration being given the enthusiasm of the National Assembly to embrace this important national conversation. The opportunity of a lifetime must be seized in the lifetime of the opportunity. This, without question, is a matter whose time has come. I therefore urge my fellow governors and state assemblies across the country to prioritize the constitutional processes required to actualize this dream. I'm aware that some quarters have those concerns are not without or different from some of the challenges already experienced under the existing federal structure. The possibility of inordinate exploitation, strong safeguards, clear accountability mechanisms, and professional systems insulated from the machinations of individuals. We must not throw away the baby with the bathwater. Since 2021, Bayelsa has been independently ranked Nigeria's most peaceful and secure state, a status our security architecture has sustained into 2026. A reflection of deliberate planning, sustained collaboration, active community participation, strategic investment in security infrastructure, unwavering support for our security agencies, and above all, the goodwill of our people. This progress is demonstrated through tangible interventions. We have repositioned the state's grassroots security framework through the reorganization of the conventional security outfit, codenamed Operation Doakbo, complemented by the state-owned Bayelsa Vigilante and Bayelsa Volunteers. We have also established the Bayelsa Community Safety Corps to deepen intelligence gathering through trained local personnel whose intimate knowledge of our terrain, waterways, communities, and people provides invaluable support to the conventional security agencies. These efforts have been reinforced by the deployment of CCTV cameras at strategic locations across Yenagoa and environs, sharpening surveillance and enabling real-time monitoring. The procurement of patrol vans, motorcycles, and other operational assets have markedly improved the mobility, coordination, and rapid response capacity of our security personnel. Together, these interventions have forged a more proactive, intelligence-driven security architecture, one that safeguards lives and property while nurturing an environment in which businesses flourish and citizens go about their daily lives with renewed confidence. Indeed, Bayelsa's experience stands as a living testimony to the efficacy of a well-coordinated community-based security model. It offers compelling proof that when local intelligence, terrain knowledge, and robust collaboration with conventional security agencies are deliberately harnessed, the outcome amplify many of the very benefits so often advanced in the case for state policing. This is the Bayelsa experience. This is why inclusion matters not only in dialogue, but in development. When our people have a stake in the success of government, they become investors in the success of our security protocol. We understand these facts. That is why we have opened up all the 3 senatorial districts through major roads projects. Our people have long desired road design and develop. Our commitment extends to building and renovating schools and medical centers. And with our 60 megawatts gas power turbine now on stream, bringing power to homes, businesses, industries, and security operations. A cut-off community is a vulnerable community. A connected community is a comfortable community, confident community. When government delivers real safety, real service, and a better quality of life, our people take ownership of it. Cutting off the vulnerabilities on which insecurity feeds and giving themselves a stake in the peace. Accordingly, Bayelsa has adopted both kinetic and non-kinetic approach to security. Force will sometimes be necessary to confront criminality, but guns alone cannot win peace. The state must be firm, yet fair. It must enforce the law while addressing grievances and pursue criminals while preventing young people from being recruited into criminality in the first place. At my first term inauguration, I extended an olive branch to all Bayelsans, irrespective of political affiliations, because peace cannot be partisan and security cannot be sectional. The safety of a community must never depend on how it voted. The protection of life and property is a duty owed to all citizens, not a privilege granted to supporters. Let us remember this truth. Where there is no justice, there can be no peace. Peace is not merely the absence of violence. It is the presence of justice, the presence of opportunity, and the presence of trust between government and the governed. As the reggae icon Bob Marley reminded the world, humanity is quick to plead for peace, but far slow to demand the justice that makes peace possible. And true peace cannot be separated in dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, the question before us today is not whether insecurity exists. We all know that it does. The real question is, what are we prepared to do differently? If we truly want to match words with action, we must confront the structural weaknesses in our security architecture, strengthen intelligence gathering, improve interagency coordination, deepen federal-state collaboration, invest in technology, support community-based intelligence, and create jobs and opportunities for our young people while addressing poverty, drug abuse, and cultism, and illegal arms proliferation. Most notably, we must devolve power in a manner that allows subnational governments to respond quickly, lawfully, and effectively to threats within their territories. We must trust the subnationals. We must stop treating governors as mere spectators in matters where their people expect them to be principal actors. No state can secure itself in isolation. Criminals do not respect borders. Kidnappers do not stop at boundary lines. Illegal arms do not recognize state capitals. If threats migrate, our response must also be to coordinate, built on a genuine security ecosystem rooted in cooperation amongst adjoining states, federal agencies, traditional institutions, community leaders, and citizens. This cannot be left to chance. Our security agencies must be intentional in planning, in intelligence sharing, in joint operations, and in deploying personnel and resources to where threats are emerging, not merely where damage has already occurred. Security must be proactive, not only reactive. We must not wait for tragedy before we mobilize, nor for lives to be lost before we coordinate, nor for communities to cry out before we listen. Only when states and agencies work as one entity with one purpose can we claim to have a security system that truly serves and protects the people. Bayelsa is ready. We are ready to partner, to collaborate, to share intelligence, to strengthen interstate cooperation, and to work with the federal government and all relevant institutions to build a safer, more stable, and more prosperous Nigeria. But readiness must not be one-sided. The nation itself must also be ready to confront the truth, ready to move from rhetoric to reform, to replace suspicion with trust, to give practical meaning to federalism, and to accept that the security of Nigeria is too important to be centralized in theory, while the fisherman who charts the most effective path forward. Our governors know these tides. They bear the constitutional and moral responsibility for public safety. If we are to build a security architecture that is responsive, effective, and enduring, we must place greater confidence in those closest to this problem. It is therefore only logical that our states exercise greater authority within their jurisdiction, while continuing to work in close partnership with the federal government. If we truly want to, God bless Bayelsa State. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Easy as the rep of the governor. Thank you very much, sir. And that'll be a wrap for today. Let me just quickly recognize, first of all, Director News of the Rise News. I'd like to welcome Somna Sambu. Please can we put our hands together for him? Thank you very much. Always watch your analysis and we appreciate you for the good job that you do. The MD AIT. I'd like to recognize and welcome Mahmoud Felix Akoha. Please can we put our hands together for him? Thank you very much for also coming. All our media listens into a proper discussion, but I'm sure the media, please.
Jeffrey Ozono is a seasoned anchor for politics. Jeff is a member of both the Nigerian Economic conducted high-level incisive interviews with governors, ministers, leading politicians, policymakers, and experticians shape governance and impact citizens.
Some of you are very tired already. Mr. Maxon, thank you for the invitation. This is the second time I'm hosting a panel session. The last time I did insight on some of the things that has already been said. I must say and commend and recognize some of my colleagues. Some have left already. Some are still, I can see Sambo at the very back. But we're going to make sure that we have the most productive conversation within the short time we have, and everybody is going to be part of this. But before I introduce my set of panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, I want to say first that sometimes we talk about on the front line, whether it's the military, the police, the DSS, and the rest of them. Nobody would choose to die for a country because of money. I've never, first of all, appreciate our men and women who take up arms to defend our country. Let's put our hands together for that. More of what we're discussing is the issue of value for human lives. So I'm going to bring in my guests or my panelists who will explore these issues. First, Major Lancelot Anyanya is retired. Please, let's welcome him to come on stage. The second time I'm sitting with Lance as a security and risk management thought leader, technology developer, and strategy advisor. Let's put our hands together for him. I do lawyer, Nifade, he joins us. Dr. Yomi, thank you so much. And Nifade, he joins us. Dr. Yomi, thank you so much. And finally, let's put our hands together for Majid. Finally, let's put our hands together for Majid. The big question is, has to be in effect because we have to match words with action. From the data to match words with action. From the data available to us, whether you're looking at UCDA, you're looking at ATI, you're looking at the truth. We may deny this the best we can, but the truth is that we're literally at war. And there has been expenditure in terms of defense, intelligence, and all of the things. Gentlemen, how come there's no lady on this panel? How come there's no lady on this panel? Wow, maybe next time. Wow, maybe next time. Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much. So, main terrorist organization, we have Lakrawa, we have Ansari, we have Boko Haram, we have ISWAP, and the list goes on. And given the number of attacks, I've looked at where there is need for security. Lance.
There was a declaration in place already.
That's why I say active.
So
my words were very deliberate.
So the military is to keep things very simple. So when you say active, I don't know what you mean. But I imagine that if these conversations are not very smart, I think that the former CDS in his keynote made very cogent the argument that there was need to concretize action in respect to that emergency, the declaration as it were. Can't but support matching action. From that perspective, we look at it. That's what's really required. I would really just want to make the point about building elite consensus, because if we're talking about building the consensus of all of society, might take a bit of time. I think that societies move forward through human history through either elite conspiracy or elite consensus. So we must build, and maybe that's what the government really needs to do, build elite consensus beyond partisan boundaries as to what the priority of our nation is now. Like General said, what has changed? If we are at war, now we're not of that civil war age, but from history books, we know that, look, the structure of the army changed their behavior. So if our behavior has not changed at the level of government in terms of priority for funding, because you say something, then I really wonder whether we are matching words with action. And speaker after speaker has made reference to that. Somebody commented that with the publisher, I won't be here. I took a covenant that I'll never go on those things because it's just a waste of your time. And if God gives us the privilege of access, what needs to be done is in front of us, changing our order of battle. Those things come at a cost, to which the keynote address addressed. But there would always be a debate as whether we view security as an investment or as an irritant expenditure. More often than not, whether it is from public commentaries, out of the security, are not really sure whether they want it. So to put it in very local analogy, yes, if you want to eat omelette.
I think there's a consensus that Buhari 2016 up to now from a very conservative data, because I know that MBS had released one data that was very bad data as to using household as against individual. But if you look at ACLED data, that shows that about 100,000 plus people were killed in about 16 years. So that distribution comes to about 6,000 people per year. That is literal wartime number, and it's totally unacceptable. So are we addressing this with a sense of emergency and urgency that we should, from your standpoint?
Well, I would say it's a mixed bag of reactions, really. While successive governments have tried to be seen to be doing something, paid attention to. What are the drivers of insecurity in Nigeria? What is responsible for what Nigeria is faced with is not just crime and criminality. No. Poverty, but Nigeria is experiencing transcends this level of transcends the level of the order. We need to interrogate the causative factors, and for government to be able to address those issues fundamentally. And there seems to be a lack of political will to do so. For instance, the biggest threat Nigeria faces today since the Civil War, and of course, we have banditry. Banditry is a cultural problem, it's a culturally motivated crime. Unfortunately, if we do not address, if the government is not strong enough, the state is not strong enough to assert itself and address some of the ideological reasons, some of the ideological building blocks that has overboard into this insurgency, no matter the military deployment you have, it will consume it. It will not work. Virulent Islamism. You see, I'm saying this from the point of view as a Muslim. I need to add this caveat. It's not on the fringes. Boko Haram is simply a violent manifestation of Islamism. Where political Islam failed to achieve it back to the mainstream. Where the ideals that Boko Haram is trying to put to practice were taught and still being taught. For instance, the governor of Niger State recently made a statement. Some that every effort by every government has not been successful. But thank God, Limbus Fulani came out and addressed the issue of Fulani banditry by addressing yourself, you need to speak to your children. But it was countered immediately by Sheikh Gumi as usual, who cautioned him to mind his words in order to not aggravate issues. And we are some armed forces, creation of state police, the of what the constitution provided for. Islamism in the mainstream across the country. You see, when the people are faced with such existential threats, you must sit down and have a soul-searching session and now decide that somehow you have experimented with wrong cultural. This is what the government must summon the courage to do. And you talked about the light consensus. As Nigerians, we must be able to take a decision on this matter. We must return to understand this with all sense of responsibility. Look, as a Muslim unhindered, what it does not allow me to do is to impose my values on somebody who does not believe in my own kind of religion. We comment upon me. In fact, when the issue of hijab came up, the Supreme Secular Court of Nigeria actually said Muslim women can use hijab. Meaning our rights and privileges as Muslims are fully protected under the secular constitutional democratic order of Nigeria. Muslim scholars must begin to reconcile the faith and citizenship of Muslims in Nigeria to this reality, other than asking for an Islamic separate tendency towards having a Sharia law within what is supposed to be one country under a secular constitution. If we do not address this, and this is what the state must begin to do now, otherwise, for every insurgent to kill in the battlefield. So it is important for us to carry out this reform within the mainstream. You think that in the secular and multicultural society like Nigeria, your religion should dictate political, administrative, legal conduct of affairs. Administrative, legal conduct of affairs in the multi-religious and multicultural society such as Nigeria, where you have almost an even spread of both Muslims and Christians. And history has shown that Muslims are the biggest victims of Islamism. And Islam, too, has suffered a lot of image damages from Islamism. So it does nobody any good at all. So in the further analysis, we must address this issue. Otherwise, all of the military efforts we are making to combat jihadism in Nigeria, that is now multidimensional, will not be successful without this reform taking place. Thank you very much.
It's been a while I heard the level of brutal honesty from somebody who is practicing the faith. Now, let me come to you, Tietie. Building on what you talked about, because there are other layers I want to take on with you. Building on what you talk about deconstructing some of these ideologies that have become mainstream, as well as in addition to what you consider, what I tried to ask Lance, and he was asking me whether that is not in place already. How to have a state of emergency, certain constitutional provision must be suspended. I've been around here, I have not seen that suspension happen. So in two prongs, you're going to respond to that.
Respected and very brilliant General Rabo was correct, very correct when he referred to state of emergency declaration by the government as being intentional. It does not connote the suspension of law, the use of extraordinary measures. So where the respected general said it was intentional, because technically speaking, if a president were to declare a state of emergency, it could only last for 6 months and then possibly renewed. A sort of a call to the understanding that this country is actually at war, which is the import of Section 305 in the first place. That is when the now, and I know the respected general can attest to this. In his presentation, subtly, because I thought we were going to speak too much of what there is always room for overpower. We know traditional policemen will not agree to that, but we see. We know traditional policemen will not agree to that, but we see that responsible governance cannot be without the power to enforce law. Therefore, governors must indeed control some measure of police. But that approach of using an emergency to pass it in the National Assembly by voice vote, it's strange. So the state of emergency should transcend all areas, not necessarily looked at from the point of suspending law. Based on what Majid has said, the truth about it is that this country has not shown enough resolve. In the times, and I don't want to seem as if I am patronizing the former Inspector General of Police, Mike Okiro, but there was a time in this country where you committed a crime, and I could refer to, let me refer to the respected General Olusegun Obasanjo as president, where you were certain that you violated a law, you will be punished. You did anything wrong, you killed somebody, you will be tracked down, you'll be hunted down wherever you are in this country, and you face the music of the law. So long as we have people like Sheikh Gumi that will challenge the state and give certain directions that will, undermine the authority of the state. I'm not talking about the president. President will come and go. He's a president. But we're talking about the Nigerian state. It's a huge concept. For those of you who study political thought, you will know that it's the amorphous nature of the state. It's the ultimate power. It has sovereignty. It has an army. It has a geography, a territory, and it has the people that it needs to protect. Anybody that threatens the sovereignty of Nigeria must face the music. So the gradual undermining of the Nigerian state by individuals who make comments, whether they are Nnamdi Kanus, whether they are Sheikh Gumi or the Muhammad who was taken down one way or the other, the state must begin to assert its superiority, whether in force or in whatever way.
I like the passion because I think everybody is literally tired. For those, well, it's a different kettle of fish for everyone. And sometimes the empathy goes to the men who are always at the front line to put their lives at risk, even with the worst form of, welfare and services. But some of us who also report these things, it can be very depressing every other time when you listen and hear that we're calling people, just like the general has said, these are human beings. This is somebody's father, somebody's mother, somebody's son, somebody's daughter. But before we continue, let me bring in a panelist to join us, the Executive Director, Patriots for Advancement of Peace and Social Development, also a security expert, Dr. Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi, join us on stage. Please, let's put our hands together for him as he joins us. Thank you so much to come. Let's talk to Dr. Difade. Doctor, let's talk about some international perspective to resolving issue of the level of national security threat we've felt. Now, we're losing soldiers, we're losing policemen, we're losing civilian JTF, we're losing civilians. We're having one thing that bothers me the most as a journalist and as a citizen is what I consider the ease of mass abduction. The way people can just spark 200 people and move them, 150 people and move them. And then we can debate about whether ransom was paid, all that shenanigans and talk. If this was to be a Western country and things have degenerated to this point, from where you sit, what would have been a Western approach to this?
Thank you very much. There's a saying in the Western world that says, a chronic disease deserves a drastic treatment. And even in Nigeria, the Yorubas would say, Amankokolea Katalo Atofia Bofoloko. That means you deal with the immediacy before you come to address the things around the corners. If this were the Western world, take, for example, in the UK, you have the IRA. What the British government did had B specials who actually went out of the way to deal with the particular issue. So if this were in the Western world, the first thing you will do is deal with the particular assault. If you can get the people released, release. Sometimes there are casualties, but what you really don't want the terrorists, and I don't call them bandits, I call them terrorists. What you don't want them to do is to think that they can in some way, somehow manipulate or relate to the government with the government and the people at a level of which they are treated as equals. So if this were in the Western world, you will move. Yes, you might have negotiations. Yes, you might have people coming from the side, but you have a multifaceted approach, and the use of force is not excluded. You see, under international law, yes, you talk about protection of human rights, you talk about this, and you'll find all UN resolutions and international resolutions would tell you that whilst you're dealing with that, you have to take care of human rights. But we all know that human rights are, yes, absolute rights, qualified rights, and limited rights. Where they are limited, you know they're not always there. Where they're qualified, you know the qualifications. But in a state of emergency, even absolute rights are suspended. Where there is an existential threat to the state, then absolute rights are suspended. And that is why you see all over the world, even the United States, the whole of the European Union, the use of force may be a last resort, or they tell you it's a last resort. But believe me, it is not the last resort. Because in most cases, they still do it. The state is supreme, and it must be. So if you have people undermining the state, kidnapping, taking things, looking for negotiations, ransom, you cannot entertain it. And the earlier question you raised, whether the government was serious about it, I do not think so. I still think the political will is not yet there. The political will is not yet there. Yes, so we send our soldiers to the front, we send our police officers to the front to fight and die, but then we skirt around the edges and we don't deal with the political issue. Why should you rehabilitate people who are known terrorists? Criminals go to jail, we don't rehabilitate them from jail, which we should be doing. But yet we take terrorists and say, we rehabilitate you, give you something, and get back into state. That should not happen. So it does not happen in this. So in the UK, for example, they fought the IRA. In Germany, they fought the Red Brigade. Force was used. Yes, you will still talk. You will still negotiate around something. You will still even come back. After the battle, you would come back to deal with the political issues. They must be dealt with because the political issues are sociological as well. If you don't deal with them, they persist and it festers. And it's, as my fellow here said, it will be something that will recur in the future if you don't deal with it. But first thing first, remove the cankerworm and then come to deal with the political structure. Thank you.
All right. It looks like there's a consensus. By the way, panelists, if anyone is giving a submission that you feel you want to annotate on, you're free, but just let me know. And of course, what I like this panel is the fact that we have a military person, somebody who understands governance as well, and we have the lawyers as well as security experts on this one. And there are a couple of things I want to ask, but let me come to Dr. Shinkafi. If you have cancer and you go to the hospital and they say you have malaria and you're given Amatem, it doesn't solve the problem of cancer. If by chance malaria is in your body, it will take out the malaria. Or if malaria is not there at all, the cancer will continue. It is not because the drug is ineffective, it's because you poorly diagnosed the situation. I said that to ask Dr. Shinkafi, have we diagnosed our problem when it comes to national security honestly and correctly?
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi. You see, in Nigeria, we have a very complex security situation. It is multi-dimensional. If you look at the terrorism, banditry, militancy, secession, and armed robbery, a very complex issue. The president or the successive government have been making statement, giving marching order to the cyber chiefs, to the security agents, yet it has not changed the narratives. Looking at the national security situation we're having at hand, we have to look at the root cause. What is the root cause of armed banditry? What is the root cause of militancy, oil theft, terrorism? When you are going to address the root cause of insecurity or security challenges in Nigeria, you have to face squarely the issue of poverty, illiteracy, porosity of the border, because of vulnerability of the border, corruption, weak infrastructure, and also the judicial weak judicial system and weak infrastructure. When you address this root cause of this insecurity, then you will now look at it means automatically they have lost direction. So the government have to do everything humanly possible to deploy resources, to recruit more personnel to fight this banditry, insurgency, and other security issues in the country squarely. You have to look at it. You have to do check and balances. On the part of the government, many funds are being appropriated in the fiscal budget, yet on security and defense, yet it has not matched with the performance of the security agencies. You had money in billions are being appropriated in the fiscal budget, but yet the military, the police, and other security agencies are being complaining of equipments, jet fighters. They are being complaining the soldiers, the security who are on the front line are not being paid their allowances as at when due. Where is the money? So these are some of the root cause we have to address. And in addressing these issues, you have to use kinetic and non-kinetic measures. When I mention non-kinetic measures, I'm not referring to the belief of Asad Sunnah or the belief of Sheikh Gumi. I'm not in consonant or I'm not in appellation with the reconciling or making peace dialogue with bandits. Because when you make a peace dialogue with bandit or terrorists, then you are legalizing the criminality. So issue of banditry in the Northwest, North Central, it has been turned to a criminal enterprise where it has a lot of value change. So logistics suppliers. So unscrupulous judicial officers, unscrupulous security officers are aiding and abetting this banditry. Some governors are even also in agitation for making a peace dialogue with bandits. I disagree with many of these governors. When a governor of Katsina State was saying bandits are our brothers, how? How can a criminal be your brother? You should send him to his creator. That is the only solution. So also bad governance. These governors have been collecting money from the federation account. What have they done? Some of them have been diverting these funds for personal enrichment. On all the lack of infrastructures, like where I come from Zamfara State, from Shinkafi, where Bello Turji
has his catchment area there. He has been terrorizing people from Sokoto East in Shinkapi. In many occasions, the top military authorities have declared this bandit wanted on their wanted list. But most of these bandit kingpins are still perpetuating their crime and criminality in the hideout. Bello Turji is still in Sokoto, within Sokoto Aziz, Shinkapi Aziz, Sabon Birni Aziz, Zurmi Aziz, East Aziz, Goroyan Aziz, Dogo Gide, Adamu Aleru. Many of them were declared wanted by the top military authorities for more than a decade. Yet, the military cannot take the fight to their hideout because there's no political will on the part of the government to fight this crime and criminality once and for all.
Okay, I'll come to you. Majid, I'll come to you, Lance, but Majid, let me come to you for a moment. I'm listening to him. Having been a reporter and a journalist, I see how regions respond to issues of insecurity. See the issue of Chibok. It got international. We can talk about the mix of politics and all of that. That was yesterday. But see the issue of Orire in Ogbomosho area. You see the response and the pressure that came through. So sometimes when you look at northern leaders, with greatest respect, and the political leaders in the north, do you think that they are serious enough or they are conflicted with religion to be able to tackle the problem of insecurity? And that's a very sensitive question.
They're not serious. You don't even have to be apologetic about it. They're not serious at all. Alaji Shikafi is one of the few northerners from the 19 states of northern Nigeria that have spoken like this or that speaks like this regularly. Few. You can count them. In the same northern Nigeria, apart from the governor of Zamfara State now, who says I don't want to dialogue with bandits and I want them dead in 3 weeks, so I'm giving the opportunity. The governor of Kogi, both past and present, and maybe Zulum to some extent. Until recently, the governor of Kaduna State was experimenting with dialogue and all forms of appeasement to bandits. Obasani. Or is it the one in Katsina? Name them. That's what I'm saying. You see, we need to sit down and have a soul searching because for what happened in Orire, it is clear that the rest of Nigeria are not willing to endure this incineration coming from London, Nigeria. You saw the reaction, for instance, when General Rabe, a whole major general of the Nigerian army, himself and his wife were abducted, and he died in the bandit camp. And people were asking what killed him. What else killed him other than banditry? There was no outrage in northern Nigeria. As if nobody died. As if nothing happened. Lakurawa elements entered a community in northern Kwara and slaughtered people. Some numbers were said to be as high as 300. No outcry. That was as if nothing happened. But when it happened in Orire, the Yoruba people didn't spare their son that is in the villa. They called him out. They protested against him. Teachers went on strike. It was from the day they abducted those children to the day they were released, there was pressure on the president continuously. Whereas under President Muhammadu Buhari and Imam Sheikh Nura Khalid, the digital Imam, was fired, was sacked as an Imam for preaching against banditry and calling on President Buhari to act. He was sacked as the chairman of Apple Jumat Mosque. Guess who sacked him? The chairman of the committee that sacked him. Senator Seidu Dansa down. Whose village has been overrun by bandits? Yes. And as we speak, just like he said, we don't need dialogue with them. We don't need take them out. But the mainstream view, this is the minority view, the North. The mainstream view, the Muslim North today, is what Gumi represents. Gumi is not speaking alone.
So should we arrest Gumi?
It is, Jonathan, I don't know how Nigeria is configured. Do you think Gumi cannot go to Saudi Arabia? Why do you think he landed in Saudi and was turned back? His views are not only sympathetic to criminals, bandits, and terrorists. Gumi has been able to give an ideological dimension to banditry in Nigeria by telling you that they are doing it because of lack of schools, lack of this. Do I have schools? Do I have anything that these people are lacking? Tell me, where in Nigeria? Who in Nigeria has been provided for? You said it's a cultural problem. And when it started, the Buhari administration especially decided to terminate farmer herders clashes. A blanket, coloration. And because Buhari himself, may God rest his soul, as president, was conflicted between his own ethnicity and the citizenship of Nigeria, which hampered his functions, his functionality as commander-in-chief. And so the state receded. If you recall, it took us about 6 years in the media to convince the federal government to declare bandits as terrorists. We shout until they started downing fighter jets, violating military formations. That was when the Attorney General went to court and decided to get a court order that declared Yambin Diga as a terrorist, as well as Yasekai. Tried to create something that was, how do you call it now? A false equivalence, really.
All right.
So there's the conflict there. And many people still hold on to this conflict. As we speak, the standard procedure, the standard position in the North is that we should negotiate with them. Let me shock you. I have it on authority that just before the Orire massacre, Orire abduction happened, the federal government was considering actually granting amnesty to bandits in the North. It has been a long-standing demand. And the president is a politician. And our politics is due by identity, ethnicity, and religion. So if a whole region says what they want is an amnesty for bandits, give it to them and have their vote now.
Okay, Meji, let me come to Lance. I know Tietie he wants to speak. And I'm picking from some of the things that the general has said in his papers, element of we're going to talk to. Just a moment, sir.
Can I interject?
No,
ask the question, should Gumi be arrested?
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Okay.
For giving succor and glorifying terrorism.
Okay.
So that should be. And then it will become incapacitated whilst we deal with the question.
But the Minister of Defense has been unequivocal as to those who sympathize with terrorists, as to what is needed to be done to them. Nothing has been done. I know you will give me my time to respond, so I will not say further than this, except if you allow me. I will quickly respond to what Dr. Nifade and Alhaji Shinkafi.
Yes, because now we're talking solution.
The solution is this. So first, please, let's not have an understanding that the state of emergency should involve the violation of rights. Yes, certain rights, the chapter 4 rights, right to life, right to dignity, right to liberty, all those rights are so sacrosanct. They are equated with the foundation of this country, so they cannot be violated.
Bandits
don't have... But no, wait, come in. No, you see, we are careful not to fall to the same standard. You can't catch a bandit and shoot him extrajudicially. No. However, we will understand if there is lawful interference, if our privacy rights are violated, if our movement rights are violated. So I will understand if the National Communications Commission decides to spy into our phones and restrict the movements we make. I don't have any problem with such rights being violated if you decide to crack the WhatsApp code of the terrorist, whatever. But never must state of emergency contemplate carrying out extrajudicial killing because he's named a terrorist. The highly respected General Martin Luther Agwai, who according to the records, is the most decorated soldier in the history of this country. I happened to have the opportunity of sitting under his tutelage at a particular conference where he bemoaned the issue of DICON. I even didn't know that DICON, that was supposed, because the respected and brilliant General Rabo had referred to the idea that why are we an arms importing country when there was DICON? And we knew what DICON represented. But General Agwai bemoaned the fact that DICON had completely left the manufacturing of weapons and was producing table salt for Nigerians to buy. So if you're talking about solutions, I want to go back to section 305. Section 305 says, President, wait for a governor to request
you to declare a state of emergency in his state. Just wait for him.
All right.
But if he fails, I need to say this 1 second. If he fails, Mr. President, declare it. So my brother Mojid talks about Katsina, where a governor negotiates with bandits, and the bandits came wearing the uniform of a slain superintendent of police. I'm coming. And then he wears the uniform. He killed the policeman, and he comes to the negotiation meeting. It wasn't long after they killed an army major general. Mr. President, that governor didn't ask you under Section 305 to declare a state of emergency. Mr. President, what were you waiting for to declare a state of emergency in Katsina State?
So it's political failure.
So big time political failure that looks like complicity. So the question is, Mr. President, you can't be, for the reason of political correctness, destroy this country and destroy the life of these people. In 2015, sir, we had a president who cared less whether or not he was going to win. I saw him in the war front then. The point is that the president, at the price of losing an election, ensured he did the right thing. Mr. President's political correctness is dangerous to the foundation of this country, and he must invoke his powers under Section 305.
All right, the can of worms are beginning to open. I will keep it open. And so let me take it to you, because there's a conflict about rights to life and the perpetrators, enemies of the state. So I want to understand from a military point of view, I know that the generals have spoken about it, about the rule of engagement. There is a clear definition of where bandits is. Lakarawa, Ansaru, Boko Haram, all of these elements. At what point? Because now the president said the window for, I don't want to call it amnesty, this operation Safe Corridor is open, but it's not going to you. He said, no matter
multiple lines of action to deal with insecurity, and that is what people refer to as kinetic and non-kinetic. So these things that do not lend themselves to strict interpretation one way or the other. That being said, it is the right of government to decide how to deal with a matter, the strategies to adopt. But to the more specific question of their role, they understand by training what to do in every scenario and in every situation. I think in terms of the strict interpretation of it, it is most of the time left to the judge.
Sorry for cutting you. See, I'll say with you. Let's say we catch Bello Turiji today. What will be considered justice for Bello Turiji? Kill him on the spot, or bring him for prosecution and sentence him to death, or sentence him to life imprisonment? What will be justice? Well, I'm almost asking a moral question beyond it.
No, it's not a moral question. It's simple. I mean,
what will be justice?
Even in an outright war, when you have a prisoner of war, you can't kill him. It's straightforward. You have a prisoner of war, you can't kill him. That's because even the conduct of war is regulated. So we have laws. The armed forces itself and the entire gamut of its operations is within the framework of a law. That's the Constitution and then subsidiary legislations. Therefore, like one of my panelists said, it's difficult. It's a superior wisdom, sir.
Okay.
So can I continue, sir? So the means of I wanted to take cover under him. the means of conducting warfare in themselves are not unrestrained or unregulated. And that's a whole line of military science in itself, the laws of armed conflict. So once somebody has come into your custody, different rules apply. And at what point they take them out is the judgment for the person on the ground. We can sit here and decide when somebody should be shot, but the judgment is always that of the personnel on the ground.
All right, I don't know how much time we have. There are so many. How many of you have questions? The general has a question. How many of you have questions or contributions? So the reason why we're going this path, and I'm deliberately asking this question, is that if we define that we are at war as a country, that's why we're talking about the use of force. There are layers to this conversation that has to do with welfare, remuneration. There's the civil relations. There's also religion. I don't know how much time we have. General, we will yield to you for superior wisdom on this. I don't know whether I should repeat my question. If we catch Sariji, should we kill him or should we take him to court?
Lancelot has actually answered you, and I stand with him. because you also have, we're a nation governed by laws, and so we must yield to laws. So, but then I'm in the front line and I see him, it is only when I arrest him that the laws apply. But right there in the front line. So let's leave that. So, but now why I'm standing up? I'm standing up because of what I've heard regarding repentant bandits and issue of rehabilitation, amongst others. It's not just only on this forum, but I've had it at various fora. And I think that is a misconception. Now, federal government has Operation Safe Corridor. That I'm going to explain, which is not the same as what Borno state government has, not the same as what Katsina state government has. What Nigerians who are against what has now come to mean, or what have been termed as classified as repentant rehabilitation, is the model which Borno State government is doing and which Katsina State advocated, which is not the same as what Operation Safe Corridor, is implementing. What is it that the Operation Safe Corridor is implementing? Now, because I was there, even though it started short, and I think that from then, of course, we can't make proper, analysis of issues and then come up with an informed position. Because a problem you do not know is a problem you can never solve. At that time, we had, in my malarial campaign, this was not in them to come to tell us what the military was doing at the time and how they were violating human rights. And so we came up with this, look, if our judicial system is taking so much time like this, what do? I can't, as a soldier, be the one to arrest and also, and then also be the one to prosecute. So there was a window that was created to say, look, let us aggregate, and then the high caliber ones were put together and sent to Kainji, where another camp was opened, a mini prison, if you call it a medium maximum prison, which the military was in fact took its time to construct. And now, because they misunderstand it, this is the reason why some of us will now begin to come up with some of these things, say them in the public. The military constructed that edifice. I, as theater commander, wrote the Minister of Justice. I, at my level, intervene in this matter because I'm a frontline commander. I'm not to be taking charge of all that. But this was the situation the military found itself. And so those who were segregated, the high class ones were the undertaking, for them to face all those. Then the low risk are the ones that were sent to another camp that was open in Gombe, which is called Operation Safe Corridor, which many now think, especially because, again, maybe because of the management, the approach, then there is publicity as to what they're doing. And then many now think that is exactly what, that is not correct. That is not correct. In any case, I also tell people, call him an accessory. Of course, he's complicit, isn't it? But then it cannot be as complicit as the person who actually did it. Take them to Operation Safe Corridor. What we tried to do was to ensure that it's covered by law, and because I need, and if I don't get it,
I've got time.
Not 18. Because I need, and if I don't get it,
I've got time.
Not 18 administrative departments and agencies that are represented in Operation Safe Corridor in Gombe. It is not the same as what they are doing in Meduguri. It is not the same as what Katsina state government. So if you want to just say Katsina model or Borno model, those are the ones, in my view, because they did not come under the framework of Operation Safe Corridor. For whatever reason, that's a different kettle of fish. But I think that for those of us who are analysts, we must have this thorough understanding. If we fail to do so, then we will be misleading the public. This thorough understanding. If we fail to do so, then we will be misleading the public. For them to now be angry against what government is doing even when the security agencies are doing what is right.
Well said. Thank you,
So,
General.
ask your question, I'll answer you.
So should we close that corridor?
So, which corridor?
The one you just explained.
No, we cannot. Do you know why? That is the one in Gombe. Judicial process in our country. Those in detention will be dying and will be accused people in this country. Some international criminal courts. You were able to ensure that the judicial process addresses all those issues. Or if you like, today you can even say, like, look, the military should not be involved in such things. Right. Let if it's the police or not even police, because police is now part and parcel of the counterinsurgency. Let the Ministry of Justice or justice should be transferred in that sense, and then we can have peace.
Please, a round of applause for the General. Thank you, sir. So don't keep going. How much time do we have? Do we have up to 20 minutes more, 30 minutes more? What time do we have? Okay, but while they are trying to give me the time, let me come to you, Majid. I'm going to come like this.
Okay, so Chairman said, Mr. Chairman said we should wrap up everything in 7 minutes.
In 7?
Yes.
In 7 minutes.
This year, panel, everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There are wonderful comments that have come up. It opens another opportunity for us to think and find the way forward.
Okay.
But if we say we are going to sit today and answer all the possible questions,
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
All right.
There are one or two comments that have been made, even my name mentioned. The context is important, but we move on. One thing that is very important is that security, the question of declaring state of emergency, the issues some of the panelists have mentioned, the sensitive part, religion, is religion being used correctly? Are we going to debate that and find an answer today? And on and on. So I think I will claim the indulgence of every one of us here that let's not get into the stage of diminishing return.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Please, a round of applause for Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to keep it simple. It gave us 7 minutes. He has taken 2. So let's do 1 minute each. And we cannot leave without talking about the issue of state police. I would like your general comment or your insightful comment, and if you could do it in 1 minute each. Some have said, I think it was the Minister of Defense, former CDS, General Christopher Musa, who said, this is going to be more like an elixir, more like this is solution in the right direction, or this is going to be a worse disaster for us. What do you make of it? 1 minute each, gentlemen, so we can wrap up. Let me start with Lance. Lance, no, I know you spoke last, but just if you can make it 1 minute.
Okay, so my thoughts are the state police is needful, is imperative, almost overdue. Popular consensus is in its favor. The appropriate guardrails need. More importantly, let us not create new problems. And Prof did talk about going back to some of the pre-colonial arrangements we had. We also need to remind ourselves that you cannot solve tomorrow's problems with yesterday's solutions. The society has changed, it has evolved, and one of our advantages as human beings is our capacity to adapt. So if that adaptation means that we create state police or other devolved mechanisms of policing, so be it. But all around it, we must build a nation on some of these issues. And it is striking what sufficient community or citizen consensus that there's a problem. So you're trying to solve a problem for a man who doesn't believe that he has a problem. That is a problem.
All right.
So whatever it is, let us decide to go one way or the other, but let's build national consensus, beginning with elite consensus, around what needs to be done and how quickly we need to do them.
Majid, 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I think I also want to adopt and concur with the position of the keynote speaker on the issue of state police. But I would like to just add that we need to now appeal to the conscience of them. Please don't misuse state police. Use it for the people, because if state police fails in today's Nigeria, because that should be our last lifeline. So what else are we going to be talking about? So we need to really appeal to them to say, please, we need to kneel down to them. What do we need to do? Just beg them to say, please. Because it's their decision now. There's nothing we can do about it. All the safeguards are not enforceable without their decision to actually comply with those safeguards. So we need to appeal to their conscience to say, please, sacrifice your personal interest, your ethnic interest, your religious interest, your personal interest for the collective interest of the people you govern. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Majid. Cheche. As a known critic of the president, I want to say that state police is the best thing that has ever happened in his administration. That armed private police, armed private force or whatever, Tantita has proven that with some peculiar situations, that private military, force can be needed. The NUPRC has Tantita to tank. So I'm looking forward to private military or private police formations with a legal framework where you see these brilliant generals, you see them, you begin to envy and regret why you didn't join the military. They are now retired. What are they doing? They should go and you see a private military company or a private police company is giving a contract to say, look, protect this area and ensure that no bandit enters. And then they deliver. The same way Tantita has delivered.
All right. Tantita will pay also commercial, by the way.
Protection, checks and balances, and it's not about having a state chapter of a federal place, but a genuine people, ordinary local people are part of the governance of that place. So we are the people, and you.
The only way,
1 minute, sir.
Yeah, the only way we can have address the issue of national security is government to drastically address the issue of economic discontent. That is the economic crisis, and also to secure the border against the infiltration of illegal immigrant and also situation. Then when you apply this methodology, I think it is going to be very effective and very efficient, and it will also another way of solving the problem of security in Nigeria.
All right.
And also our border should be secured using advanced technology.
Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for the panelists. Chairman, you said I should give an opportunity to the senior advocate for a 30-second General of Bielsa State, by the way.
Oh.
There's a lot of Bielsa here.
Thank you so much. First, I commend the speakers, the organizers for a wonderful program, contributions, and suggestions. But just to add that the issue of the expeditious dispensation of justice is critical to the issue of insecurity, solving that problem. Some time ago, about 4 years ago, when during the last process for amendment of the Constitution, we made some very critical suggestions, even went to the Senate. We proposed an amendment to the effect that the system for, that's time limits should be imposed, prescribed for hearing of cases at various levels. The High Court, 1 year, Court of Appeal, 1 year, so in the judiciary, they can enforce their rights. And the entire economy, which is central to this issue, is based on the sale of goods and services. And once people can enforce their rights, that will improve. Because if you render poor quality service, people will take you to court. If there's any arbitrariness, even in government or anywhere, people will be able to enforce their rights. So that will lead to very substantial improvement in the economy. It will address it. Of the Constitution with respect to administration of justice is critical to this system. Thank you very much for.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you so much. In closing, I want to thank everyone, Mr. Chairman, General, keynote speaker, Maxine, everyone. My own last final thoughts would be, I think it is counterproductive and planning against yourself as a nation. If any man you give guns to protect the state is paid anything, the least is paid anything than 200. I don't think it's too much on our budget, and I think rewarding that person. How many of you agree? And social development. Also joining us, Yemi Onifade, PhD, lawyer, forensic expert, and scholar. We also have Frank Tietie, development lawyer, activist, social entrepreneur, and public affairs commentator. Majid Dahiru, frontline columnist, media personality, and public affairs analyst, as well as Lance, Major Lance Anyanya, retired former intelligence officer of the Nigerian Army, security consultant, and subject matter expert. Gentlemen, thank you. Please, one more time, a round of applause for them. Thank you.
Check.
Jeffrey, thank you. I appreciate it.
No, publisher, you have to just join. Publisher will join. We'll take this first picture. Then I will, with all due respect, humbly request our two generals of them. Okay, the four of them. Okay, the four of you, sir. I don't know at what point I will join this picture. I don't know which one is my own. There, Tantita. Okay, yeah, a bit of space so that we can show with the two generals. If I cannot. Are we done with this? Yes, thank you very much, our panelists. No, General, sir. General, sir. The editor, First Daily, to help us with the vote of thanks, Mr. Ebele Ndukwe. Please, can we put our hands together for editor as he comes for the vote of thanks? Mr. Editor, sir.
Standing on the existing protocols, I, Ebere Nduku, editor, First Daily. I want to use this opportunity to express our gratitude to every of our distinguished guests and everyone who has dignified our gratitude to all the media houses here present and everybody who has left their businesses today, whatever engagement they are supposed to be in today, to be here. I want to again establish that First Daily, we are a news organization that is unbiased. If you have anything media and you are looking for an authentic place to go to, First Daily is your place. Not wanting to take any of our time any longer, having spent so much time already. I want to again say thank you, everybody, for honoring our invitation. May the good Lord preserve and protect us all as we go. God bless Nigeria. God bless our president. And God bless everyone who is here today. Thank you once again, and God bless us all.
Just a quick announcement before we go. Just one more announcement before we go.
We actually have a good offer, and we have 100 copies, but you can actually get 50 copies for 1.2 instead of 1.250. So the books are by the stand outside while you're coming out. Please, if you're interested.
Your Excellencies, very senior officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellencies, very senior officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to, on behalf of First Daily, sincerely appreciate us all for being a part of this 6th anniversary public lecture, and we had a wonderful and robust dialogue on national security. Thank you. Wonderful evening. My name is Chooks, the General, and I've been your host for this event. Thanks to everyone who worked behind the scene. I am for their multimedia. Auntie Namure for having sleepless night putting this together. Where's Auntie Namure? She's the usher, the bouncer. She's the usher, the bouncer, the security, the caretaker, she's the Tantita security, she's everything. Thank you very much. We appreciate everyone for being a part of this. God bless you all. Thank you, Uncle Laslot. Thank you very much, everyone. My name is Chooks the General. It's been a wonderful evening. Thank you.